Democratic Republic of Korea. Okay.
You're telling?
Korea.
Republic. Sorry. Korea.
Wow.
The other one is the Democratic Republic of Korea. This one is just a republic. They're both Koreas. Or they're both republics.
That's what the normal response would be. CT.
They're both republics. None is a monarchy. It's a good thing to note. Yeah. But so the president has there, we've gotten some 60 billion shilling South Korea funding. So all these bilateral agreements that are being signed.
60
billion shillings. Cash money.
Cash money. Okay. Yes.
Funny. So we're good to know where do some of these come from. Funny.
Your response was correct. Cash money. So we know.
Okay. So when some of these deals are signed, for example, Kenya recently, the president was in America and signed and said, so now Kenya, we are a non-NATO friendly ally of NATO. What was that thing?
Non-ally member.
Non-ally friendly.
Non-member ally. Non-member ally. Because you're a non-member of NATO.
You're a member, but you're an ally.
Of the members. You get it?
Well, Rafiki.
Well.
Non-member ally of NATO.
Well. Yeah. So now that we are a non-member ally, like you can be an ally if you're a member. It's like duh. Now that we are a non-member ally of NATO, so some of those, remember we had that conversation, do those things need to be ratified here? Because you're basically, it's a major statement.
And you're roping in
an
geopolitics, sovereign nation.
Or you go and sign up a deal and say, so we are, concessional development of this, 31 billion shillings coming into the Concert Digital Media City project to expand digital creative economic opportunities. So you must find that, some Korean companies will come and set up base here. And, this, what does it mean? Should these things be explained nicely? Should, like, the president come and do a report to parliament and say, this is the deal, this is the cost?
Actually, if you want to give it some sociological terms, it's like these are the in-laws of my cousin. Yes. So we are related through my cousin.
I think it's very necessary. And at the end of the day, I think it's even more necessary to tell people, this is how we then received, the money actually got here. This is what we did with it. And here, you can actually see physical manifestation of this spend.
Yes.
How often do these things happen?
Very rarely.
Harrison Kinyanju is an advocate of the High Court. He'll be joining us at 7 a.m. to draw those parallels. We, the sovereign, when we see our leaders signing up all these bilateral, multilateral agreements, how involved are we? Okay? Hiyo ni saa moja. At 8 a.m., we'll talk about World Food Safety Day 2024, preparing for the unexpected. When is World Food Safety Day? Is it today or yesterday? World Food Safety Day. I think it's yesterday or today. We will be joined by two people. One is Godfrey Nyangori. He is the Agri-Fi Program Manager, MESPT. He'll tell us what MESPT is. And then we have Pilanet Magad, Sector Advisor for Food Safety at the Royal Danish Embassy in Nairobi.
It's on Friday.
It's Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, World Food Safety Day. Okay. This Friday, the 7th. Sawa. So, we'll have a food safety conversation at Sahio. Sangapi? Sa Mbili. And then at 9 a.m., the floods aftermath, the future of Nairobi's urban planning, and we'll be joined by the Acting County Secretary and Chief Officer for Urban Development and Planning, Nairobi City County, Patrick Analo, 9 a.m. So those are the conversations like that. Sawa? 18 after 8, 18 after 6. Do the weather. Sawa? We are live streaming now. Karibuni, everybody. Yeah, we started a bit late, but here you are. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be saying hello to you shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Clear conditions in Nairobi this morning. It's 15 degrees, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 26. And a clear Nakuru at 15. It's 15 and cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 25, and 25 will also be the high in a partly cloudy Eldoret at 14. It's clear at 24 in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 31, and Malindi will be at highs of 31 as well through Wednesday. Kisumu is partly cloudy at 20 with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 in a partly cloudy Kakamega at 18. It's mostly cloudy at 20 in Kampala with highs of 29, and Dar es Salaam at 25 is clear with highs of 31 and lows of 24. We're looking into a mostly clear Johannesburg at 4 degrees, highs of 18, and Mogadishu is partly sunny at 26 with highs of 32. Addis Ababa will be sunny at 15 with highs of 27 and lows of 14. It's clear at 26 in Lagos with highs of 32, and we're looking into a clear Kinshasa at 21 going to highs of 33. Beijing Wednesday afternoon is cloudy at 26 with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 20 in a mostly cloudy Paris at 16. It's 10 degrees and cloudy in London, highs of 16 and lows of 10. And Tuesday night, New York is clear at 19. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 26 and lows of 17.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Aya, salimia watu.
Evans in Tabo says, good morning. Congratulations, Muguka Hewa. Yes. R says, wewe. Well, wewe to you too. Chamke, my beautiful people, greetings from the beautiful hills of Saboti. I want to see these beautiful hills of Saboti. I must see them.
Hiya.
Now, Panda Sana, she says, good morning, Angor. Blue says, good morning, Princess, Prince, and King. The Prince and King, people can choose who is who.
Okay.
Which one do you want?
There any prince.
Oh, any Princess, Alafu, any King Charles. Milton Awiti says, good morning to CT Eric Ndu, joining from Michigan. Robert Libogo is tuning from Mombasa. Anthony Onyango says, good morning from Rongo. Rongo is in Homa Bay. Migori. Alvin Obambo says, good morning, Spice. Matthew Kithara is tuned in from Indiana. I never know, when it's a TH, do you say Kithara or Kithara? Or does it depend?
You just say it.
Okay, sawa. Sir George Gashoyuri says, happy Wednesday. Coffee and Spice, ready to kickstart my day. Wishing you all the best. Well, asante sana. Kao Nyambura anatupenda pia sana sana. Good morning to you. Good morning, team. How are these bilateral deals benefiting Mwananchi? This is a good question. Tax. Makori, we see you. Good morning. Alex Ednah is also tuned in from Lusail. James Mukabana says, good morning. Why are you asking stupid questions about the president's visit? Don't you fear the Lord? Explain in terms of Kenyan's foreign policy. Sorry, Bas.
They haven't got woken up fully, have they?
Where? See, we are sorry, Bas. Tibbs Muga says, good morning from... good morning. Unfortunately, our leaders seem to suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. Do they or do we? Esther Cheng says, good morning from Mombasa, Pwani. Mashari Anjero is greeting us this morning and said, Ruto said in an interview that African leaders will not be trooping to those summits, but will be sending the AU representative.
Yeah.
So...
And one or two leaders.
So he's the one or two. Okay.
The others are just joyriders. If you see any other African president there, you're just joyrider.
Michael Olanda is tuning from
Our
Kita.
president is there because he's the one or two.
He's the plus one.
He's the one.
He's
or
the
two.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. Abasi. Yes. Robert Marley says, good morning, guys. Hey, Robert Marley. Espila Jackie says, good morning. Today, tuned in from... Good morning, guys. Kindly interview guys from Ampath. Okay. I heard that they are doing a great job in the community. Okay. Did the flood victims receive the money from government? This is a good question.
Tunauliza
analo akifika hapa. Brian Gawo says, good morning from Stockholm. Please ask City to sing Malo, Malo, Jaluo, Malo by Princess Julie. Ngwa, City. Tiegu. Ngwa.
Actually, hey.
No? Okay.
The song that I remember by Princess Julie was
Dunia Mbaya.
Yes, Okimu Mbaya.
Dunia Mbaya.
That one I remember very well.
Okay. I know none of them. Jonathan Mudhua says good morning from Marietta in Georgia. Dennis Dine says good morning. Migoro, we are watching. Good day. Good morning to you, Biggs. Brian Gao. What is it? Laughing at each other. Adiedo. Adiedo is on Homa Bay.
That's Homa Bay County.
And Amakolo is greeting us from there. Good morning, Team Spice. Good job, Asante Sana. And that's Malala. Good morning to you. Good morning, Spice, joining from the US. Now, Apenda Bure, Asante Sana. When you love somebody for free, what does that mean? City is funny. Say it through my cousin. City, you're funny. Funny, ha ha, or funny? Joe Monga is tuned in from Washington. Jesus is greeting us. As in, Jesus is greeting us. From Texas. You guys, we like your updates on our country that taxes their people on empty pockets. I'm telling you, it's not a small wala. Madowiti says good morning from Westlands to Collect. Lamek says good morning. Jimmy Wekesa is also here. Jeffrey Mogaka says good morning, Team Spice. Looking great. Mombasa watching. I'm planning to drive from London to Nairobi. Oh,
Sawa.
Okay. Sawa Basti. Karibu, Nairobi.
Kuja.
Everybody, welcome.
City. Are we still in that republic?
We are still in the Republic of
Zagini?
Nope.
Zagambia.
Gambia.
Okay.
Right. These people have lovely, lovely, lovely proverbs. Huh? The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty.
The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty. So,
Fantastic, isn't it?
fantastic. Ndu,
Yes, sir.
the headlines.
Okay, on the front page of The Standard, what we actually do have, poor performance in civil servants. I'm going to start again.
Okay.
Poor performance in civil service to be sent packing. To be, yani futurely. If it has not happened yet, we cannot say anything about it. Fresh rules on running state agencies provide for rewards and sanctions against board members, CEOs, and employees on performance, with bosses below par sent packing in year one and employees after 3 years. Yani you have 1 year to mess about. After that, we send you home. Others, we give you some 3 years. After that, out.
Okay.
Kenya gets 60 billion shillings South Korea funding, 63 billion the concessional developments loan to Kenya by South Korea during the Korea-Africa summit in Seoul. Yani it was like Father Christmas has gone to South Korea, so come and he has his bag of goodies and he's just dishing them out like this.
Right.
I'm telling you, 31 billion is the amount that will go to the Content Digital Media City project to expand digital and creative economic opportunities for young people. I said that the taste of the kiniko is in the what? The taste of the pudding is in the eating. When you see this thing standing before you, that is when you will know that this thing actually worked. Before that, all stories. I'm sorry. MPs want review of new varsities funding formula. I too have joined the MPs because this thing is a mess. Not in the making, already a mess. Radio presenter Jambi Koikai dies after illness, a long battle with endometriosis, and it was very sad to see her go after that fight. A big one here. Teenager in police attack lands in court. Yes, he was presented before court and a slew of charges leveled against him. And you know, tales of police harassment and police torture, I believe, is the word that was used. So that continues.
So he says he was tortured.
Yeah, there was even a sister behind him who says, "Unaona sasa t-shirt yake imejaa damu."
Hey. Okay.
So that story continues. Muguka ban.
Say again.
Muguka.
Say again.
No.
You did well there.
Did I?
Oh, yes.
Would you rather I said Muguka?
No.
Muguka ban splits Ruto's cabinet. It would appear that there's a split down the what? The mid-row. The Muguka ban has exposed the wide divide in President Ruto's inner sanctum after two CSs sided with those advocating the ban of the scheduled crop. On one side, Mithika Lunturi, this is the CS Agriculture. On the other side is Aiden Dwale, CS for Defense. And Aisha Jumwa is the Gender and Culture CS. And Abdul Swamad Nasir is the Mombasa Governor. All of these people have a say in the thing. And they're now starting to exchange blows.
Views.
Yeah. Views. So let's go with views. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So the others will come. We'll look at them. Okay. 29 minutes after 6. Let's take a look at the traffic. What's happening on the roads? It's too early for birds.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, a few minutes ago, there was nothing happening on the Thika Superhighway in terms of traffic getting out to the city. But take a look now, and some of that started to pile up just around Survey. Before that, nothing. A little bit of traffic then as you go round Muthaiga Square trying to get out towards the city, but apart from that I think you'll be all right. Kangunda Road, however, totally different story. Juja Road, very, very busy. Everybody's trying to cross over Outer Ring to get into the city, and it's already starting to look a bit messy. Coming on Kangunda Road, coming past Joska out towards Outer Ring, that is already piling up. We're looking at traffic on Manyanja Road crossing over to Jogoo Road, which then spills its traffic over to Landis, but not too crazy. Just a little bit of that happening right around Kamkunji at the roundabout. Take a quick look at the Eastern Bypass, and there's just a smidgen of it on North Airport Road going out towards Outer Ring. Nothing else really happening at this time. Let's see what happens as Wednesday morning opens up. 6:30 on the nose. We'll come back in a bit. Let's talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
there's a funding model.
Yes.
I think these guys... Oh,
Have funded it at page 13.
I was looking... I thought I saw page 33. Am I going blind?
No,
Okay,
you're not.
I'm not. Okay. But
Kuna haraka tu.
even the page 13, you not there, I beg.
It's a different one.
It's a different... Father Lord. Wait a minute.
Historical gazeti ya leo kweli.
Surely. I read it. I did. I actually read this.
Let me have a look for that story.
Why don't you look at
Because
the
it is
sports,
somewhere. It's on page 6 somewhere.
the sports
goodness
section?
sake.
You might find it there.
Page 6.
So 13 is actually page 6.
Yeah.
Sour. It's okay. No wala. So, I knew I had read the story. There is a picture of the Sheash Mashogu, and his members of parliament have raised questions over fees being charged to more than 140 students set to join university in September. According to the National Assembly Education Committee, there is no clarity on the university's fee structure since they only gave the total amount without stating how much the government and parents are expected to pay. The legislators yesterday argued that admission letters provided under the new university funding model are misleading parents.
Yeah.
The lawmakers now want the letters amended to reflect the breakdown. Don't just
Okay.
come and tell us that if my child is going to study education,
The fee is X.
the fee is 100,000. No. How much am I paying?
Say you will pay from your own pocket
This amount.
this amount.
The
The rest apply to help.
Thank
the
you.
rest you'll get a scholarship or bursary or whatever.
Precisely.
Ah, yeah.
Now, some parents have looked at the admission letters and they find the quoted fees to be above their reach, thus opting for their children to go for police recruitment or seek to join the military. This is according to Kitutu Masaba MP Clive Gizairo. The model introduced in September involves providing financial support to government-sponsored students based on their level of need. Now, it ranks students into 5 bands that reflect their financial ability from the most needy to the least needy. However, MPs have faulted the method used to classify the students, terming it unreliable and vulnerable.
Is there a method?
There's no method as far as I'm concerned. This is actually madness without a method.
Let's go on.
According to the Ministry of Education, so MPs have faulted it. According to the Ministry of Education, the government employs a scientific method to assess a learner's ability to pay fees, a method known as the means testing instrument.
Okay.
The method looks at the parent's income and employer, medical expenditure, primary and secondary school they attended, poverty index, and motor vehicle ownership, among other parameters. But MPs protested that the parameters fall short of capturing the true reflection of a student's background. During our visit to universities, one of the institutions elaborated to us and showed that the means testing instrument is not watertight, according to Kabondo Kasipul MP Ivo Barra. Lugari legislator Nabi Nabwera argued that some students were placed based on misleading background information. Some of these students placed in different bands reflect their ability to meet higher fees, could not even afford fees they were required to pay in secondary schools. They have pending debts of over 200,000 shillings in their previous schools. Now, data tabled before the committee showed that 9,726 students identified for government funding in last year's placement protested and sought a review of their status. Because guess what? Your funding is dependent.
You're classified.
On your status. Exactly. You're classified.
Means testing instrument. Okay.
Now, Timothy Kipchumba, who is the Marakwet West MP, wondered whether the model was rushed, noting that some students are being advised to choose courses their parents can afford rather than those that they qualify for. So, CUSPS places you based on what you've qualified for, right? And what you've chosen. Now, on this funding model, if you are not able to pay those fees, you have to choose a different course, because obviously courses differ in price, right? So you may qualify for a particular course, you're not able to pay for it, so then you're forced to choose another one. We also saw that CUSPS yesterday is opening the portal again from today for you to go ahead and change should you need to. Now, they called on the ministry to detail the model's challenges and whether a return to the previous differentiated unit cost system should be considered. However, Education Principal Secretary Beatrice Nyangala defended the model but noted that hurdles would be addressed. Some almost 10,000 students appealed for a review of their status because you put me into this thing, jugu jugu jugu, and you say end. And then
I'd like to know how this thing works.
Defines my status.
Immediately this was announced by the president that this is what they're going to do, have a means testing. We invited the CEO of the university's fund, right? And we asked, so how are you going to gather this information? Said, we are going to work on this and gather the information, blah, 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 blah. So now, KCSE results were released just the other day. And end of the year. And the CUPS thing was opened, and so 200,000 or so students have qualified for university.
Yeah.
So at what point do they start conducting this survey for the means testing? How does it work? I don't know actually. How does it work? Is it that the university, is it CUPS or is it the individual university that sends you a form that tells you fill up this form and tell us this is who I am, these are my parents, this is what my parents do for a living, this is their maybe annual income or monthly income, these are my siblings, I have X number of siblings, this is a school I went to, this is the kind of fees I was paying, I attach the fee structure. How do they know? And then how do they verify? If I said that mimi tu niko na mzazi moja,
how do you verify that that's true?
How do you verify this?
If we had a unified system that takes into account the information that we gather during the census, because it did cover things to do with household incomes and what have you, but you see, all that has changed over time. When we had the census, what somebody may have reported then may not be what the reality is now.
Yep.
But the testing that we're referring to is something that is actually used worldwide, but is normally used when you want to determine who should receive relief or who should not. But the question you ask, which is pertinent, is at what time are the parents given the opportunity to declare their status so that you can use that information to actually calculate and figure out how it is that you are going to determine the relief that they need. But remember, for this thing to work, it isn't a one-off. It has to be a comparison over a period of something like 6 months.
It has to be continuous.
Yes. Then you're able to figure out. Because if, say, for instance, somebody is in what we call the informal sector, what they earn is not constant.
It isn't. It could be a good day and it could be a bad
day.
But
yes. So you have to look at an average. And an average can only work if you take it over a period of time. See?
But unfortunately, I think what was done here is that we got to the end and then tried to look for the means. In this case, it looks as though this model is saying, okay, we need to see a reduction in how much government is going to spend at the university level. And then now we are going to input the formula and say that, all right, because this is how much we may have at this particular point in time, let's then reduce the amount of money that we are going to spend, all right? And then now let's put the students through the system. That's
To
what
see
it looks
who
like.
we shall pay
To
for.
see who we shall pay for. As opposed to saying, what is the need, right? How many do we have going to school? What can then we afford?
You know, you can tell some of this just through high school. If you actually just collected the data from the 4 years that this student has gone through high school, you can tell, you can start getting some information.
Actually, you can get a lot of information.
How timely were they paying their school fees?
If at all.
If at all, right? You know, all those things you can see from the school heads. They're collecting data and they can tell you this is a needy child. This one is completely needy. This one, in fact, they missed out 2 terms in school. They kept going home. At some point, we even stopped sending them home. We said, you just come and stay. This is an extremely needy child. And you can use that to say, this is how they are. It doesn't, I don't know. The Principal Secretary for Higher Education, Beatrice Inyangala, says, we acknowledge that there are some gaps in this process. Some are caused by not getting the right details from the onset.
Really?
We are analyzing the first year of implementation and we take note of the feedback to inform any improvement. In the meantime, there's somebody who is totally needy who has had to drop out of university because they can't afford.
In the meantime, let's bungle along.
Yeah.
Do you know where I think you have an extremely valid point? It's this matter that we keep speaking about, the ability of government to speak truth to its people. Okay? If the government doesn't have money to offer what was offered before for university students, they should say so.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll tell you, but we've said so. Yes, in a roundabout manner, yes. But is there a comprehensive plan that we can look at and say, you know, this is what we've been told. We may not like it, but this is what we've been told. And this is how we're going to go about it. And when you ask, you're told, go to the website. You know, that's not how this thing should be approached.
No.
You explain these things from the time someone is in school. You know why? Schools tend to be more in touch with the parents than the
Yes.
university.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They have just the interactions that the school has with the parents and the students enable this information to be passed on so that people know by the time someone is applying in for university, you have a fairly good idea of what it is that is required of you. And as you correctly put it, Eric, the school will know and will have a fairly good idea of the ability of the parents.
We're going about this the wrong way, first of all. Secondly, we're going to have a lot. Look, already there's worry that, you know, you have almost 600,000 spots that have not been picked up across universities, for goodness sake. Then you're going to have a situation where folks are not going to be able to afford, even those who are in the system, they're not going to be able to afford it. And then on top of that, you've told them that help has no money.
Dude, the reason why most people in this country have gone to university is because the government afforded people that opportunity. Otherwise, very many people would never have gone to university in this country.
It's just the entire education system. From the same way we keep arguing here, why do we need to have a thing called bursary that people fight over?
Eric, you said this a long time ago. All these bursaries, Sujui County,
Yes.
UCDF,
Sujui President's
Sujui
Fund.
Wait,
And they're all going to
same
school.
money,
Yeah, school.
same source.
Same students in Kenya.
Yeah.
In Kenya.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Same source,
Take
same
the money,
money.
put it in one place, and then dole it out as need be.
Take it to school
Hey,
Yes.
and tell children come
go to school.
Yes.
This is at you now. You
Take
go.
it.
In fact,
apply
don't
for
create
bursary.
another institution to be doling out that money.
Just take it to the school.
Then you tell us that help doesn't have money, right? Meanwhile, there are people who went to school 10 years ago who are paying help every month. So
Yes.
you're basically saying that those who are coming back for second year who had help assistance in year one will not get assistance. And those who are new students will not get that money. So where does that money go?
Dude, there are people who paid off their help loans, God knows when, and they're still being asked by help.
And they're still getting
the notices,
yeah.
notification to pay. Okay.
Mambo sipo. Something is happening at the state law office. Okay, it's a small matter of The State Law Office, this is the Attorney General's office, had some vehicles to dispose. Okay, yo gari imetumika sana, imegongeshwa, imevunjeshwa kwa msoba. Hizo vitu, we just need to sell them. All right. So they decided we've got some cars that are parked in the yard. They're just gathering dust. We want to sell these cars. So they sold 59 motor vehicles, and they made a lot of money. A lot of money. To the tune of 7 million shillings.
How many cars?
59 motor vehicles.
Right.
And they made 7
7 million shillings.
Were they just dashing the car?
No, 7 million.
It's okay.
Okay.
59. Now, they have been taken to task by the National Assembly Public Account Committee because of that matter. Solicitor General Shadrach Mose said yesterday had a difficult time explaining why the Office of the Attorney General sold the cars at a throwaway price. The Auditor General's report showed that the State Law Office did not dispose any assets in the financial year ending June 2022, although 59 motor vehicles had been grounded at various locations. At the same time, logbooks for 10 vehicles bought and delivered by the National Treasury were not provided for audit verification. National Treasury has bought vehicles, has sent them to the State Law Office. Wapi logbook? Ngoja kidogo, acha tuangalie. However, the State Law Office did not maintain a detailed, up-to-date assets register to keep track of the assets procured and held, with this being contrary to the Public Finance Management Regulations, which require an accounting officer to maintain a register of assets under their control or possession as prescribed by relevant laws. This is according to the audit report. Mose told the committee that during the last financial year, some 7,081,000 shillings was realized from the sale of the grounded vehicles through public auction. I promised to provide this committee with the necessary documents for the final transfer of the 59 vehicles to the buyers. We appreciate all the issues raised here because they're meant to ensure we streamline accountability process at the State Law Office. I swear. Now what you're going to do, Okay, I'm going to bring the documents that show, this is who bought the vehicle, this is how the auction happened, this was the at the fall of the hammer, this was the price, O-N-O. Fall of the hammer, O-N-O. Yeah, I promised to provide that. The Solicitor General admitted that at the time of the audit, the asset register had not been updated. John Buddy, who is the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, wondered whether the process was manipulated, saying there was only a notice of intention of the sale. The committee should be furnished with the reserve price of each of the vehicles and who was the highest bidder and the relevant documents to prove the sale of the 59 government vehicles at a price that is raising eyebrows. We want to know whether Kenyans got value for their money. Buddy, good luck. Just take the 7 million.
Just take the 7 million and close that thing, because you'll be told I'm bringing logbook until 1950.
Please determine that 7 million was actually received.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is the 7 million even there? This 7 million you're complaining about, is it even there?
Yeah, let's see it first.
And then once you see it, better hold it, because
and hold it tight.
Another money is not coming.
Yeah,
it is 7,081,000 shillings.
Right. But you need to see it. And then after you've seen it, then you can ask all these questions.
Exactly.
These are questions that need to be asked of every government institution. The graveyard that exists when it comes to government vehicles in this country, it is shocking. But it is a quiet business that very many people benefit from.
Can you imagine you sold
59 vehicles.
You sold 59 vehicles.
Yes.
And you got 7M.
So let's say they
Even
were
if
all
you're selling them for
dilapidated,
150,000 each, it's more than 7 million.
You got 7,081,000.
Yeah.
For 59 vehicles.
You see that 81,000 gives you the range where your pesa ilikuwa ngapi paka
50,000 a car.
Well, let it 50 uchukue hizi tatu.
Uko na cash? Si mpesa cash. Okay.
Let's.
In fact, ukiweka 60 hata 4.
And what's in that car? Does it have an engine? Does it have a gearbox?
Is it on stones?
Usually, you will need, people who are in this business will tell you, you know exactly what you want to buy. Because there are people who know exactly the state of those vehicles. And they'll tell you, hiyo sinunue.
Hiyo chana.
Lakini that one, kuna kanini moja tu litolewa lakini iko sawa.
Sawa.
Ukirudisha, it's fine. Really, hata ukiangalia tire, ni sawa.
Nakuru? Utafika.
Like I starts coughing for you in Westlands. Wayaki Kufu.
Jesus. Tuta survive. City, tell us a story.
I will tell you a story. This one you'll find interesting. Executive to present first ever foreign policy paper in house. Did you know that? The executive is set to present Kenya's first ever sessional paper on foreign policy to Parliament for approval. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has said. He's also Minister for Foreign Affairs. Is he not?
He is the Minister
Yes,
of Foreign
exactly.
Affairs.
Mudavadi assured senators that the sessional paper would unlock the country's diplomatic issues. It would unlock issues. That sounds ominous. I mean, why do you want to unlock issues? Yesterday, he told the Senate Liaison Committee, which consists of all chairpersons of committees meeting in Eldoret, that the foreign policy sessional paper will encompass parliamentary diplomacy, whatever that is. He sought the support of Parliament in fast-tracking the approval of the policy. Now I want to read what he said, and I quote, I want to entice you that when I drop this note, start thinking about how we can entrench parliamentary diplomacy. Through parliamentary diplomacy, we can unlock many issues. Unlocking, here we come again, affecting the three arms of government. So the three arms will be unlocked. So what will there be, 6 arms? Okay, over the years, the issue of foreign affairs and diplomacy have been treated as an elite club affair. And Kenyans are wondering what happens. He said, the Prime Cabinet Secretary further called for the Senate support in the government's war on corruption. Okay, that's a different story now.
Okay.
So for the first time, we have a foreign policy.
Yes.
That is to be taken to Parliament.
Yes.
It will be interesting to see the details of this
Yes,
policy.
it will
What's the
actually be
direction?
very,
What are we
very nice.
saying?
Yes.
Are we a non-ally NATO member of the allied nations?
Non-member ally.
Of
Yes.
the Eastern Bloc?
We are members of the same community. We also shake hands with ECOWAS, things like that. Okay, so we know where we
Always be
stand.
friendly with capitalist-leaning
Yes,
jurisdictions.
Yes.
And we shall fight pirates.
Yes, exactly, deadlily. And then what? And we'll open the northern corridor.
Oh, right. Always. The northern corridor will always be open
For
to
the
our
Silk
allied
Road.
members.
For the
But this
Silk Road.
But this is good because every time we talk about the thing that we're doing, you have to ask the question: What is our
What
foreign?
is it?
our
And I
foreign
asked this question
policy?
last week when we were having this
You
conversation
did?
about
Not just you've asked it before.
what's the policy.
What's the foreign policy in
Yeah.
this matter? Then
So-
there's our position on this matter.
Is that we are going to Haiti.
Yes, exactly.
We shall support our friends in need. That's a policy.
That's a policy.
Mr. President addressed the country from where was this, Bungoma, on Saturday. It was what? The Madaraka Day. Remember Madaraka Day? And then he went around in Bungoma County and made several promises. He says, first, number one, this airport that I landed, we are going to work on it. Tuweke mataa vitu nini, uongeza lami ikue long, weka tower ikue tall, and then have all those things. We are going to actually work on this airport. He also talked about working on roads. He also talked about the Masinde Muliro Stadium. The work that they've done is good, but we are also going to make it a gooder stadium. Right? Last year, the president addressed the country on the 1st of June from Kericho.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he said that, what?
In Kericho, he made a number of promises. For example, the construction of Karenga Airstrip, the renovation of Kericho Green Stadium, which has now been renamed to Kiprugut Chumo Stadium. The residents of Kericho have raised alarm over the slow implementation of the president's promise of windfall projects that was made during last year's Mashujaa Day. It was Mashujaa last year. It was Mashujaa 20th.
Oh, it was something.
Something.
It was a something.
Something. So, for example, the request for the refurbishment of the Karenga airstrip came from the National Celebration Technical Committee during their visit to Kericho on June 15th last year. When Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen appeared before the Senate on March 19th this year, he revealed that the project had already consumed 55 million shillings. According to CS Murkomen, 45.4 million was spent on clearing bushes, stripping and grading the runway, as well as related drainage works, including construction of an aircraft holding apron. An additional 10 million shillings was spent to construct an open steel frame shed. The works were completed on October 18th last year. The works were completed in compliance with the Bill of Quantities, specifications and drawings. The project manager's successive approval were done up until the completion of the works, he said. The Kenya Defence Forces were contracted to do the works. However, a site visit by the Standard yesterday, not last week, last year, revealed that, see, we spent 10 million shillings to clear bushes. Standard went there yesterday and they found bushes and grass are gradually reclaiming the 2-kilometer runway. The only indicators of an airstrip are the tiny apron and the steel shed. And we can see a photo there. You know the way we have this parking of ours here, just the nini, and then we have a mabati, like the Juakali sheds that you see, donated by MCR, so and so. That's what we see here. Well, that's what we call an apron. The airstrip is now a habitat for grey-crowned cranes and other bird species, with cattle owners using the ground as a grazing field.
May I say something?
Please don't. Let me finish. Signs of trouble emerged as early as October last year when a military plane flying First Lady Rachel Ruto to Kericho for the International Day of the Girl Child struggled to take off after heavy rains soaked the gravel runway. Kipchumba ametuambia they spent 45 million shillings Katanyasi, stripping and upgrading the runway and related drainage works. Drainage means water lands, water goes. Construction of an aircraft holding apron. 10 million shillings extra was spent to construct an open steel frame shed. That is last year, and he says the work was completed on October 18th. But October 12th, First Lady Rachel Ruto had gone to Kericho for the International Day of the Girl Child. Her military plane failed to take off, struggled to take off after heavy rains soaked the gravel runway. Let me finish. Murkomen said the airstrip project will resume once his ministry acquires land from a Katera tea company. The government, he revealed, is eyeing 50 to 100 acres for this project. The ministry is negotiating with the landowners to sell the land to the Kenya Airports Authority for the development of this airstrip. Even as when we developed it, it was with the understanding that we would have to engage them to complete the works. He said the acquisition of the land would have to be on concessional terms because Ekatera, which is now Brown's PLC, holds the land on lease from the Kericho County government. Senator Samson Cherargei of Nandi, however, called for transparency on this project. He said it is laughable what the CS oversaw during the construction. There's nothing worth mentioning. Cherargei. He said the government spent 55 million on this project. Substandard works shouldn't even be more than 5 million shillings. Now, say.
Do ladies first.
I just wanted to ask what Cherargei asked. So he has asked, no, Allah. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. The thing that they said they spent the money on, so they have spent the money, but they've not done it, right?
Walikata nyasi bana. You see now, when you cut grass, that minute you've uprooted grass. Grass
That
will
thing
grow.
again.
Yeah, thank
In
you.
fact, in 1 month it will have grown.
So, but now the
The other thing was grading the runway. They were grading the runway.
gravel.
Grading means you take that machine that goes
The one
that's
that
what
rolls.
it does.
The roller.
It actually just clears and paves the thing. So the earth is as God made it.
Then they also worked on related drainage works.
So
Related.
that 50, they said 10 million for
45
grass,
million.
45 million. So 55 million.
Yes.
And we are nowhere. It's like magic.
No, I just want to mention something that is perhaps a little cheerful.
Okay.
Because all these stories are dreary and they are dark and they are damning to the spirit. That stadium was appropriately named. Kiprugut Chumo Wilson, was the first Kenyan ever to win a medal in the Olympics. First Kenya. First, kabisa. 1964 Tokyo Olympics. He won 2 medals.
Look at that.
Silver and a bronze. It wasn't 800 meters, it was 880 in those days.
Wow.
Silver. Okay? Now, whenever a stadium is named after someone that appropriately it should be mentioned. Okay? Because in 2022, he was acknowledged as Sports Person of the Year, Personality of the Year.
Yes.
Yes, we say we do not honor our heroes and our athletes adequately. This is one case where someone has been honored appropriately.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
It's good
Very
to hear.
good.
Very
The
good.
thing is now that stadium should have been completed.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yep.
Kiprogu Chumo Stadium.
So the folks in Bungoma should actually be stepping back and saying, wait a minute. Tumeambiwa nini?
Tutajengewa stadium, tutajenga.
Remember
Na airport, tutajenga.
when we, in the Uhuruto government, one of the things that stood out in that government was the number of stadiums that they had promised to build and which they were never completed.
By the way, Wote.
Water.
Eh.
Water is complete, bwana.
Okay.
Water.
Complete.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Keep it here. More conversations coming up in the next hour. We'll be reviewing the president's recent foreign trips. We have what the Prime Cabinet Secretary has promised is going to Parliament in terms of what will now be known as a sessional paper. Sessional paper number what?
Sessional paper.
Should you remember what? Okay. Sessional paper. It will be our foreign policy that will be taken to Parliament
Sessional paper, yes.
for discussion.
Right on.
7 a.m. news time.
Spice up your life.
Schools across the country are raising their alarm over the release of capitation funds a month after the start of second term. The delay now threatens the smooth of running operations. The situation has also been made worse due to delayed payment of fees by parents. In junior secondary and primary schools, head teachers revealed that they are not only struggling to meet their day-to-day activities but also straining to supplement the teacher shortfall and necessities for the competency-based curriculum.
Form 1s have not been captured in names. So we received capitation by the number of Form 4s who left last. I do know that the Form 4s are fewer than the Form 1s. Most likely, the whole country maybe Form 1s are 1 million plus. And then you find the Form 4s are around maybe 700 who left. The issues surrounding capitation need to be straightened up. There are so many gaps and the schools are suffering. That is why you are finding all schools in this country are running on debt.
The capitation that comes to schools is only 17,000 of rate. Schools are budgeting for 22,000 Kenya shillings, and we wonder, where does the school get that 5,000 difference from? It is good now the ministry come out clearly on where the schools will be getting that 5,000 so that they can be able to cater for their budget.
If we have promised our institutions that we are going to release funds 50, 30, 20, as per now we are expecting 80% to hit the accounts of these institutions. Having in mind that this is the second term, whereby we have a number of activities going on in our institutions. Already the sports have kicked off, but there is no money in those institutions to run those activities. Are we going to request the parents again to pay this money so that the activities can run in those institutions?
Education CS Ezekiel Mashogu has, however, insisted that no school will break early for midterm due to lack of funds, further promising to soon disburse 30% of the required capitation.
There is no school which is crossing for lack of capitation. I want to assure you that during last term, we were able to give the 50% required capitation. The first amount we gave was 25% of the total amount of capitation that was supposed to be given in the calendar year. And then towards the end of first term, we were able to give another 25%, making it a total of 50% of the total requirement of capitation. We are also very soon, I don't want specifically to indicate when, giving another 30% of the capitation to all our secondary schools and our primary schools. So the normal running will be able to continue in all our schools, may it be secondary or primary schools.
Kenyans yesterday concluded giving their views on the 2024 finance bill with stakeholders in the banking sector, saying that a large number of Kenyans may stop using banking services due to the increase in cost. Appearing before the committee led by Molo MP Kimani Kuria, they asked them to remove the proposal to increase taxes on banking services in the digital system by 16%.
even at that level where you're paying matatu fees and I'm transacting on my mobile phone, I'm transacting from my bank to the till in the matatu, again, this move from 15 to 40 still applies. And we've done our research because as chairman you said, Ednah is here. We have a very powerful team from Equity, ABSA. We've done our research and we've not found anywhere in the world where there's this application of both VAT and excise duty on financial services.
At the same time, SMEs have blamed the government for increasing taxes repeatedly without involving them. They've told the committee that the situation has forced some of them to shut down their businesses.
What we are just proposing is that we have a progressive manner in how we introduce the taxes. If you look at the national tax policy that's supposed to be 5 years, what we are seeing currently in Kenya is that it keeps changing within the year, right? So we have submissions for the finance bill, we pass the Finance Act, and then new taxes start being introduced within the year. It makes it very difficult for SME startups and even for corporations, I'm sure even for KPMG as well, planning on how to have a kitty for regulation and compliance because that is mandatory.
And finally, Standard Group Board of Directors has named Ms. Marion Gadhonga Mwangi as the new Chief Executive Officer. Her appointment takes effect from July 15th. Mwangi takes over the reins of Standard Group from her predecessor Joe Munene, who has held the position on interim since July last year. Gadhonga is an accomplished senior executive with over 26 years of local and international experience in commercial, operations excellence and general management in multiple sectors. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, what are we looking at this morning? Jogoo Road was busy from the jump. We saw that. Very busy, coming off a thicker superhighway as well. Traffic still continues to pack a punch as you come then through towards Survey. Let's look at Langata Road, and a little bit of that is then forming as you get towards the Nyeri Stadium area and then out towards Aerodrome. Coming out of Westlands hasn't been too busy, hasn't been too crazy, but we'll see some traffic start to build up as you head towards Waiyaki Way, and that's coming in from James Gishuru, and all of this will get busier as we get into traffic hour. Let's take a quick look at what's happening on Kiambu Road, and traffic has built up and it's spreading through towards the DCI headquarters. Let's take a quick look back at the thicker superhighway where traffic is all beyond that also upstage, and it's coming in heavy from Garden City area through towards Survey. All right, an eye on all of this. We'll see what happens as we get into traffic hour proper, but it's starting to build. Talk to us about where you find a good route this morning, and we'll share. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 7 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. It's the 5th day of June 2024. Kidogo kidogo, it'll be the end of June. Kidogo kidogo, KRA is telling you where. Now you have penalties because you did not do what? You did not sign there. No, you did not sign. You did not fill out and submit your tax returns for income for the year ended 31st of December 2023. And you've had all this time. So we are giving you two messages here. One of the messages is please just make sure that you file your tax returns before the end of June. The other message is, well, if you had some income to declare, some tax to pay and to remit to Kenya Revenue Authority and you did not do so by the end of 2022, it accrued interest, penalties and interest. And now you've been looking at that figure and thinking, my good Lord, this is so much money. How am I even going to be able to pay the government this kind of money? So KRA has said, look, the law allows us to actually have a conversation with you. And we are offering a tax amnesty on penalties and interest. The principal lazima ulipe, you're lazima utalipa. But even for that one, we can have a conversation, all right? So talk to KRA, say, yes, guys, by the end of December 2022, I owed you this much in terms of principal, and it had accrued X amount for penalty, and the penalty had also accrued X amount for interest. Can you just put me into this program? They'll say, yes, absolutely. Let's remove the interest and the penalties. Let's talk about the principal. How able are you to pay this? Hii sasa hii imebaki ni pesa kidogo, shikeni cheki yenu au nileta cash. Tuende kwa gari sahi. Sasa sisi KRA hatuchukuangi cash and a deposit. Sawa. Ama weke check. Sawa. Then if you don't have the money right then, and you'd like a repayment plan, they can say, let's work out a payment plan, which you commit to. They'll walk the journey with you, finish paying the amount due for interest. No, not for interest, for principal.
For principal.
How do you do that? How do you get in touch with them?
So KRA is going to want you to go onto the website, right? www.kra.go.ke, and then you're going to go to iTax. And then there's a place that is called the tax. There's 6 steps, okay, that you want you to follow when you do that. And you're going to go first to the Debt and Enforcement tab, and then you're going to click on the amnesty application. When you do that, the subsequent 5 steps are really easy to follow. And then you do everything that it needs you to do. You apply, and it's like almost an application. You go through it, and you get your stuff in order. You can also give them a call on 0711 099 999. Somebody will be on the other end of that call, and they will walk you through what you need to do. It's a really friendly process. You get it done, and then we keep things moving.
Like that.
Yes.
Very good. So the president is in South Korea, and there's a photo on the front page of the Standard today. Kenya gets 60 billion shillings South Korea funding. President Ruto leads Kenya's delegation in talks with his South Korea counterpart, Yoon Suk-yeol. 63 billion shillings concessional development loan to Kenya by South Korea during the Korea-Africa Summit, and 31 billion shillings amount that will go into the Konza Digital Media City project to expand digital and creative economic opportunities for young people. Okay? The story, and you can follow what's been happening if you even follow the State House social media handles and President William Ruto's social media handles. He's updating on, okay, this is what we've done, meetings we've held. We also have a brief that's come out of, the recent visit to the USA, the deals that were signed, inked here, inked there. President has visited many places, signed deals. Presidents have come here, signed agreements. Prime ministers have come here, we've signed agreements. Oh, so what does that mean, though? Some of these deals, do you have proper clarity and vision and visibility into what the deal is? What's the cost of this? That's why we've invited Harrison Kenyanjui. He's an advocate of the High Court and a commentator on matters of governance. He's our guest for the next hour. Harrison, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much.
I like the tie.
Eric, I'm flattered.
What's that color, Ndu?
Which one?
The tie. The tie.
There are 2 colors.
Okay, what are the colors? What are those colors? Ndu?
There is burgundy, and get this, salmon.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Muga.
The salmon that we've been looking for. Salmon.
No, I'm going to put my foot in this one. So there's red and there's brown.
Okay.
Does that tell us a difference between ladies and gentlemen?
I think it does. It does. She not only has an eye for color, she actually understands colors. Yes, I have just a slight improvement on primary colors.
Me no black and white.
Oh my goodness.
That having been said, the tie is lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely tie.
Appreciate it.
No, it is, yes. I'm not aware of ties, but I know a good tie when I see it. Yes.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You know Ken Beef?
Yes.
Ken Beef, you know Ken Beef? No, you know Ken Chick.
Kenchik.
You know Kenchik?
Sure.
Yeah. So now there's Ken Beef.
Ken Beef.
Yes.
Who owns Ken Beef?
Kenchik.
Kenchik owns Ken Beef.
Yes.
And who owns Kenchik?
Yeah, no, that's a different story. What do? They supply chicken and chicken proverbs. Kenchik. Chicken products. Right?
Did you say proverb?
Yes.
That too.
Ken Beef have now ventured into beef. So Kenchik has decided, let's get into beef. All right? And they have beef. So there's some prime beef. Ati, it was what? Water aged 21 days.
Wet
aged.
It's wet aged.
Not water.
It's
not water.
It's wet aged. It's vacuum packed. After being vacuum packed.
Wet aged for 21 days.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So you get down these prime cuts. Okay? So you buy that one, and it's a cattle that's been reared in free range area, Laikipia, grass fed, all organic. Okay?
Music played.
Yeah, play music. See, all those things. Good beef. Okay, so the prime one is for you guys like you. I know you enjoy the finer things in life. And then they also have now the differentiated products. For example, there is Macon, there is Ken Beef sausages, there's Ken Beef burger patties, there's Ken Beef burvos. Harrison, what are burvos?
Oh my goodness. Sausage like.
That's the spirit.
Mutura. But let's call it what they call burvos, right? All right. So next time you send someone to go and do some shopping for you, or you're passing by a retail center, check in the meat section. You'll find Ken Beef by Kenchik. Right?
Fantastic.
City. Welcome our guest for the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of the Gambia. The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty.
The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty. Wakili, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
You should restrain yourself so that you don't spew that which is unnecessary, and probably at some point you will need then to say something that you'll find yourself lacking to say. You got to be wise. Always. But for you,
hold your tongue.
Hold your tongue.
Okay. You're about to say, but for who?
Eric, New, and Muga. Does it apply?
We can never be too talkative.
Absolutely.
Remember, it's not talkative, it's too talkative. Yes.
The one who's too talkative.
Yes.
Leaves the
now that our president is out there, is he too talkative?
Is he?
Is he? That's a question on the table. And my biggest problem is that he is doing everything out there that then accosts us. We are faced with documents whose contents we do not know, the ramifications of which we do not know, the cost of which we ourselves do not know. And then suddenly we are told, oh, you have now to increase the amount of money that is emanating from your pockets in terms of taxes. So as to do what? To meet these obligations. Now our National Assembly is aware of what's going on. So we are told, the president is right now in South Korea, and he's got a concession. A concession. You're telling me he has signed some document for which we have a concession from South Korea for 65 billion. The National Assembly does not have. Now we have a law called the Treaty Making and Ratification Act. In Section 2 of that act, it says any agreement between states, any agreement is subject to that law. Now, that law is so elaborate, and it wasn't passed yesterday. It wasn't passed 10 years ago. It was passed in 2012. And it says that before you can sign a treaty, and by the way, it's a criminal offense for which you can be jailed for 15 years, and you'll be fined 15 million if you go on behalf of Kenya to sign off some agreement without the National Assembly having sight and having debated and approved whatever you're signing off. Now, he goes to the U.S., and we are told that there he is in the company of the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. He's in the company of the Honorable, Her Excellency Waiguru for Council of Governors. What have they been signing on behalf of this country? There is one particular aspect of that trip which bothers me so much. And there is a company called G42. G42. This is an Abu Dhabi company. And they say that its base or its headquarters is in UAE. Now, this company has a deal worth $1 billion. $1 billion. You don't see that in the mainstream media. Nobody's reporting about it. We are told that there are 5 entities involved. The government of the Republic of Kenya signed what they call a letter of intent. The United Arab Emirates signed, and you have a company called now G42, and you have another company called Microsoft involved, and you have the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I think. Now, my question is this. Suppose we have a disagreement about a particular, whatever provisions that will arise from that engagement. Where can we sue? Do we file the case in Nairobi? Do we file the case in the UAE? Or do we go to the United States where it was executed? Do we even know we our own selves if and when we are shortchanged? Why I say so is this. Nobody ever taught me about Lobengula. Lobengula was the king of the Shona, not Shona, Matabele land in Zimbabwe. Lobengula is approached by the South African British company. What was Lobengula sitting on? Gold.
Lots of it.
Lots of it. And then this South African British company comes and tells Lobengula, you sign here. You know, we have 10 people, Caucasians, Europeans, who will be traversing your land. Oh, really? Yeah, look, we have only this 2-meter railroad that we want to traverse through your land. That's it. Are you sure? Yes. So, sign here. Lobengula signs. And voila. The rest is history. We hear of Cecil Rhodes claiming Rhodesia today, 136 years down the line, since 1888. Zimbabwe's gold still streams to the United Kingdom.
Okay.
What am I saying? The president is signing off our sovereignty. You don't have that right. You need to involve us and tell us that we are engaging the United Arab Emirates, and they have sponsored me through their aircraft via this G42 company, which is coming to invest in AI. And I want you to know what AI involves. As a president of this republic, I want to tell you that AI will involve the loss of your job, Eric, at some point. Why? Because we will have some AI voice. We will have some AI voice of you. And Muga will have some AI voice of you. What does that mean? Tomorrow you'll be seated in your house. Some voice will be representing you. Who will be earning? And that's all tied up with this carbon credit thing and carbon emissions. What does zero carbon mean? Zero carbon emission.
Wakili, can I just step in here? So when we talk about sovereignty of a nation, we then talk about essentially the power that a nation, or the power, the ability that a nation wields to be able to make certain decisions about things that concern them, or that just that sovereign presence which allows you then to say, we can sit at the negotiating table, I can or I cannot allow certain things. And that sovereignty, in most cases, comes from its people, right? This is now when we talk about Parliament then giving you the power to do certain things.
Exactly.
And that's now how that sovereignty is activated. That you then, even as a leader, cannot just, even as the topmost leader, cannot just go about saying certain things, cannot just go about doing certain things,
signing
off on certain things without the activation of that sovereignty by Parliament in this case. And for Kenya, that's how it works. that Parliament then allows you to go ahead. Again, I'm just building up to this, that when you do make a trip, because we know that these in line with foreign policy, and I've asked the question, then what is Kenya's foreign policy when it comes to certain things? So a trip to South Korea, for example, doesn't just happen. You don't wake up on a Monday morning and say, oh, seems like a nice time to go to South Korea. How about we do that on Wednesday? No, these things are planned ahead of time. So the instruments of the activation of that sovereignty then must be aware that this is going to happen and that there's a likelihood that certain things will be on the discussion table, so we can give you permission to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3. Now, are we saying, or are you saying, that these processes are not taking place and that the president, in his recent trip to the US, in this current trip to South Korea, has not sought the permission to activate the elements of Kenya's sovereignty?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I dare ask any Kenyan out there, have you known the contents of the so-called 65 billion concession?
How do we know he has not sought the approval of Parliament or sought the activation of, how do we know?
He hasn't, because you and I have the public access over the portal of the National Assembly, where they post every bill that is pending and at what stage it is. It's called the bill tracker. That's a website of the National Assembly. You go to that icon, the bill tracker. You can even go there. Now, you will see at that particular icon, there is also the pending treaties that are pending approval. Now, Section 15 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act elaborately states that the relevant cabinet secretary shall ensure that, in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whatever the content of the treaty or agreement is, must be published in at least 2 daily newspapers. Which daily newspaper has the Ministry of Foreign Affairs published, informed us that this is what is happening? Eric, you have the president telling us through a teleprompter, for instance, on June 1st, Madaraka Day, oh, we will be vaccinating 55 million of your cows. 22 million, sorry. That's what he said. We'll be vaccinating 50 million of your sheep and goats. With what? And he says this is going to be in conjunction between the national government and the county government. And that we, he says, the national government, will provide the vaccines. What vaccines? Under what arrangement? With some international company called Pfizer, for instance? This is the same problem that I have with him. He takes a flight to the United States, signs an agreement in Georgia with a company called Coca-Cola. Can you, Eric, for some moment, can you, Muga, for a moment, imagine, fathom an idea that, fathom this concept. You have a company called Eric and Muga Company.
They do. I'm not even joking.
Yes.
Eric and Muga, then they meet the president of Uganda, for instance, that they are going to be investing in Uganda, a private company. And that private company, does it draw resources from the national government of Kenya to go and take to the Ugandan territory? I don't know. But look at Coca-Cola. That we are told that they're going to invest, was it 22 billion US dollars or 20 million? I can't remember what he said. But we do not know the content of that agreement. This is a national government leader. The president, he is in the US executing those agreements. So the next thing is that we have a company called Coca-Cola gaining advantage, which is not being given to Muga or Eric or Ndu or anybody else. What happens in the end? You have what we call stakeholder capitalism, no shareholder. And this is a paradigm shift. Even when you listen to him talking yesterday, he's talking about the 4th industrial revolution. Whose language is that? That's the World Economic Forum language, espoused by Klaus Schwab. What am I saying? That you have preeminent companies, corporations, that he is giving precedence, even of our own companies. And he's abusing the position of the president. And he is abusing the trust that we have bestowed upon him. How? You have these secret agreements you and I are not privy to. And then the next thing we are told that, oh, Kenya owes $300 trillion or 200 trillion or $2 trillion, whatever the amount it is. I am not bound to pay that amount of money myself because you have engaged in opaqueness and you're supposed to be transparent. What does Article 10 of the Constitution say? Here we are accosted and faced with Article 4 of the Constitution, which says that Kenya shall be a sovereign republic. What did I say about Lobengula? Lobengula's sovereignty went with his execution of a document he had not read. The bane of the African leader today, I say, and I dare say even of our own leader, is that they are uttering documents, they are presenting us with documents there, which they have executed. They have not read the fine print. What are we being committed to?
Big questions. There are several questions to you as well, but we'll ask them. Let's first take a break because we've heard what you're saying, the case that you've actually put forth in terms of when a president signs, what law, what basis of law does he have? You've quoted the Treaty Making and Ratification Act. So what exactly does it say? How does it define a treaty? What's a treaty? What's an agreement? What powers does the president have to go out there and negotiate on behalf of the country?
Good questions.
And bring back. So let's discuss those after this break. Harrison Kinyanjui, an advocate of the High Court and also a commentator on matters of governance. He's our guest this morning. We are talking about sovereignty versus bilateral, multilateral agreements. When we see our leaders signing off deals or even witnessing the signing of deals between our ministers and ministers of other countries, or we see the president signing a deal between, our country and another country, what's the process? What's due process for this? Is it always being followed? And what should the Kenyan public know about it? Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Guys, dinner is ready.
Please pass the chicken.
Wow, Mom, the chicken looks yummy. Get ready to dig in.
Without a doubt, Kenchik chicken is usually the star attraction on dinner tables across Kenya because we place the highest priority on the health of the chicken we farm and the goodness of the food we provide. This is strengthened by our absolute certainty of traceability from our farm to your family. Kenchik, we're cuckoo about tasty chicken.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, 15 degrees, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 26. In a sunny Nakuru at 16, it's 16 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 25. And looking into a sunny Eldoret at 15, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 13. It's sunny at 25 in Mombasa with highs of 31. And looking into a sunny Malindi at 26, we'll see highs of 31 as well. Kisumu is sunny at 21, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a cloudy Kakamega at 19. Kampala this morning is sunny at 23 with highs of 29, and at 24 Dar es Salaam sunny going to highs of 31. 4 degrees and clear in Johannesburg with highs of 18, and we'll see highs of 32 and a sunny Mogadishu at 27. It's 16 and sunny in Addis Ababa going to highs of 27 and lows of 14. It's cloudy in Lagos at 26 with highs of 32, and at 21 Kinshasa is clear with highs of 33. We'll see highs of 21.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Really busy traffic on the Thika Superhighway this morning. It is all red from that Allsops Junction out towards Murang'a Road. Very, very busy and really slow. The service lanes before that are working really well. You want to use that coming in from Garden City. And on Juja Road this morning started really early with traffic. It's joining what's coming in Ring Road or Ngara. And as you get into the city then, already starting to pile up Murang'a Road going towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. And also looking at traffic on the other side of things, Limuru Road is quite packed. It's coming in heavy from Kitisuru out towards the village market. All of this happening then through towards Muthaiga, going towards Westlands in one direction and Limuru Road into the city on the other. All right, talking just as fast as traffic is piling up because it's really heavy on James Gishuru getting out towards Wayaki Way. And on Gong Road, feeding on the other side, busy as well. Langata Road is packing up. We are in traffic hour this morning, and it's busy. Let's know what's going on where you are this morning. Let's keep things moving as we talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, #The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Our conversation continues with lawyer Harrison Kinyanjui, talking about deals, bilateral agreements signed between Kenya and other countries, and the role of the citizen in this, or the place of the citizen in this. So, Harrison, I guess you're premising this case on, first, the Constitution.
Yes.
Sovereignty belongs to the people.
Absolutely.
Delegated to offices and elected officials, right? And then the powers then that are then given to the various institutions. The executive headed by the president, the parliament, that's the National Assembly, the Senate, the judiciary at the county level, the county executive, the county assembly.
That's correct.
Okay. And then you also quoted the Treaty Making and Ratification Act.
Yes.
So it defines what a treaty is.
In section 2.
Right?
Very
What is a
elaborate.
treaty? Or what's the difference between a treaty? Is anything signed a treaty? Or what's the difference between a treaty and any other agreement?
In fact, I could just read for your very beloved listener or viewer. Treaty, it's stated, and this is the law itself,
The
Treaty
definition
Making
in the law.
and Ratification Act, which binds now the president and the cabinet secretaries or anybody else who's accompanying him, purporting to execute agreements on our behalf.
Okay.
It says, treaty means an international agreement concluded between states in written form and governed by international law, whether embodied in a single instrument or in two or more related instruments, and whatever its particular designation, and includes a convention. Whatever you designate it, as long as you have another foreign state, independent, it is classified
as a treaty.
That's the law. That's how we define a treaty.
Okay, so let's go into examples. So a trade agreement between Kenya and the EU, Kenya and the
For
UK,
instance.
that's a treaty.
That's a treaty.
Trade negotiations between Kenya and the USA, it's going to be classified as treaty.
Absolutely.
The agreement between Kenya and the UK, so that UK troops can train in Kenya.
That's another one.
Okay. Loan agreement between Kenya and AFDB, is that a treaty? Or AFDB is not a state?
How do you recognize or classify AFDB, for instance?
Not a state.
Not a state.
Okay.
Now, where is the source of the money coming from? ADB, for instance.
Member countries.
It's member states.
Member states.
Yes.
Now, you had last week between May, I believe 29, is it 27th, May 27th, up to June 1st, we had the World Health Assembly. The World Health Assembly has two international instruments. Now, we're talking about WHO, World Health Organization. And those two instruments, I'm just using that to answer your question, the Pandemic Treaty and the International Health Regulations of 2005 were being amended, were subject for discussion.
Okay.
Now, Kenya has not told its people that we have these amendments going on under the Treaty Making and Ratification Act for you to consider. Do you even know what the Pandemic Treaty is, dear listener or viewer?
Does that fall under the definition of treaty?
Absolutely. It does. It does. Now,
why? There's no state.
But we have the World Health Assembly, to which Kenya is a member as a state. So it is, as it were, negotiating and entering into agreement with other states, but under the auspices of the World Health Organization.
Okay.
Now, the danger is this, to which our country is being plunged into, and I am so unhappy about. You have someone being sent by this country to the Ministry of Health, for instance, whose negotiation skills are in question in terms of committing our country to, say, for instance, establish what they are calling the National Health Focal Point.
Okay.
The National Health Focal Point, I'm using this as an example, under the international health regulations, will supersede and override the President of this Republic. They can, for instance, say that there is a pandemic outbreak in Kitui, for instance. And they say that we are working under the auspices of the World Health Organization. Now, Section 6, subsection 2 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act says that the executive should be very circumspect, very careful in choosing who will go to negotiate. The negotiation table is not to have a dummy or just someone sent from this country to go and represent us. In fact, if you would allow me, Eric, Ndu and Muga, to read Section 6, subsection 2 of that law, it says that when appointing persons to negotiate a treaty, the national executive or the relevant state department shall appoint person. This is in mandatory terms. Is an obligation to which shall, yes, absolutely. It's to which that the executive, the president, cannot squirm out of. The Ministry of Health, for instance, cannot just say that, oh, you know, that's my girlfriend. I'm just using an example. Who will go and negotiate. Shall appoint persons who are competent to undertake such negotiations in the interest of the people of Kenya.
Okay.
So my question now, going back, is that AFDB, for instance, is lending us money. This person who is going to negotiate on our behalf, does he have the skills, for instance, to negotiate? What is the best interest rate?
Who determines that?
Now, this law says two people. The national executive, which is headed by the president, and we have now the relevant state department. How so? For instance, we have the Ministry of Health taking the initiative to commit this country to the WHO's pandemic treaty, for instance, without our consent and authority. Who should be negotiating that instrument? It is someone who knows about treaty making or the interpretation of what is contained in such an instrument, having in my own understanding, appreciation, having an understanding of the law and health.
Right.
The interface of those two, as expressed in, for instance, the pandemic treaty, would help us at the negotiating table, rather than someone who's only interested in the per diem, who will just take a flight to Geneva or wherever place, and they sign off this country's sovereignty.
So, Harrison, with this law, the law basically says that the executive shall have the mandate to initiate treaties.
Yes.
To negotiate treaties.
That's correct.
Right? And subject to the provisions of this act, the national executive shall be responsible for initiating the treaty-making process, negotiating and ratifying the treaties. Okay? And then now we go into that process and says, so if the executive initiates a treaty, a conversation between Kenya and another country, the national executive shall decide who goes to negotiate. As long as that person is representing the best interest of the country. There is a treaty-making department in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, right? People who understand how to negotiate international treaties.
Presumably.
Of course.
Presumably.
And of course, if it's a matter of health, you expect that they'll get in support from technical people from the Ministry of Health. If it's a matter of trade, you'll get technical support from the Ministry of Trade, and so on and so forth. Then the same law says, after negotiation, if we are going now, we say we have a treaty, that treaty shall be taken to cabinet. Cabinet shall consider the treaty. And the cabinet is given the authority to either accept or reject the treaty.
Do they ever even scrutinize?
Let's just go with the law.
That's a law.
The cabinet is given the authority to scrutinize, accept or reject. When they accept, it then goes to Parliament.
That's true.
For Parliament to look at, for Parliament to negotiate, to consider, for Parliament to say, all right, we are, as the representatives of the people of Kenya, okay with Kenya signing and ratifying this particular treaty. So it's a long journey.
Eric, that's a procedure.
Okay. So when we see the president, for example, here, witnessing concessional development loan with South Korea, is that a treaty?
As I said, thank you very much. As I said, Section 2 defines that as an agreement subject to this law. We, the Kenyan people, are not operating under jungle law. We, the Kenyan people, are owed the duties and responsibility of transparency, of honesty, of that which we can call good governance. All these are espoused in Article 10. Now, it says here in the same law, when negotiating a treaty, what are the values, Section 6, subsection 1. I quote and I say, in negotiating treaties, the national executive, that's the president, or the relevant state department, shall be bound by the values and principles of the Constitution and shall take into account the regulatory impact of any proposed treaty. They are bound to take the impact, the regulatory impact of whatever treaty they are engaging in. Now, let's talk about the agreement. Now, Muga finds himself accosted tomorrow with an increment of his taxes because 65 billion has to be factored in as a liability in terms of this country's GDP's slice that has to go and meet the obligation of the. Was he consulted? The values.
Should he be?
Absolutely, because it says there in section 6, section 1.
At what stage?
Good. At what stage is the consultation being now executed by this executive? All that we see is that him coming out and reading for us through public barazas or some other place, and he is telling us, oh, we signed off these. Oh, you know, Kenya has got this concession. Who told you?
Can I ask a question? I actually have 3 questions I want to ask, but let me ask an immediate one. Would we consider the participation of Parliament as a representation of the sovereign?
I've had to heave that sigh. A sigh of disappointment. We do not have a National Assembly or a Senate, in my view, with tremendous respect to those senators and members of National Assembly, who are driven by Article 10.2a, the very first value, patriotism. What is driving these people? The desire to please the executive and not be seen out of line. But that is injuring us as a people.
Is there an example that you have, Harrison?
Do I have an example? How about the Finance Act?
Okay.
Now, the Finance Act that we are facing right now, that is due for debate, and we were told yesterday that on Thursday, I believe at 3 p.m., we will hear the policy statements. What happens when Dude just says, look, I'm not happy with you imposing upon me what you're calling this motor vehicle circulation tax, just because that I own this car and I have got a loan to get it. Now you're telling me that I have to pay this so-called tax. But where is it coming from? He's asking, at what point then is this National Assembly or the Senate supposed to represent me? Because Muga is supposed to ask this National Assembly people, now you want to pass this. Who told you that you need to impose this motor vehicle circulation tax? He wants to know the source. I have an answer for him, but for which the National Assembly will not entertain. And I'm going to tell him there's a company called BlackRock, and they have something called ESG. And that ESG it's an acronym for environment, social, and governance, those credit scores. And what do they say? They tell Muga, oh, we see you have an SUV. Now, we are very concerned about the environment, and we think that you are polluting the environment. Therefore, we do not want you to use your car. But they don't want to tell you that bluntly. Oh, they say that, look, you Ministry of Finance, for us to advance you more money, that's the World Bank, the IMF. Now you have to tell Muga and Eric and the rest of the Kenyan people, you will not be able to operate your cars because we think you should get rid of fossil fuels because they are polluting the air, and we don't have more polite language to use than to tell you that you stop using that.
But there's practice and principle. I think, City, if you repeat your question, can we say that Parliament is the organ that represents the people, right?
Yes. That's the question I was asking.
In theory. In theory.
Okay. Yes. Now, the reason why I asked this question is because right even before independence and into independence and over the years, we've been a sovereign state, we've had very many understandings with other countries, financial agencies, long before the 2010 Constitution. Now, the 2010 Constitution opened up a whole new paradigm, and that paradigm is what enabled us to have this discussion we're having right now.
That's correct. Yes.
Because in the previous government, before this, the president could decide what he wanted to do, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. And the Constitution probably supported them. Now, if I look at say let's start with the Kibaki government, right? Kibaki took us to China. I'm just speaking anecdotally, okay? He clearly understood. Out of that came the China-Africa development conferences and funds and what have you, okay? The Japanese, through TICAD, have had a Japan-Africa summit for the longest time, okay? The Koreans have now come in. President Kibaki, who didn't travel much, actually went to Japan to actually sign on a concessional loan. Now, perhaps we need to understand that why do we refer to it as a concessional loan? Because the word concessional means everything that normally applies to a loan does not apply to it. Interest rates are low. The time in which you're supposed to pay it is very flexible and long. You even have a moratorium. Like with the Japanese one, we're told they charge 0.02% and you have a moratorium of 10 years before you even start paying.
The principle.
Yes, the principle. Now, what I'm saying is this. We've had these understandings. The argument you make is a strong one, but I'm thinking to myself, when President Uhuru signed off on some of these understandings, because they were signed off, I wasn't consulted. Eric, were you consulted?
Maybe I was. I just
don't remember. The reason why, you see, because you brought it up, I had to go back into history and I'm thinking, that's why my first question, I personally was not consulted, but perhaps because I have a member of parliament who represents me, I was represented, he represented me. Okay? Now, were we well represented? And I think that's what you're getting to. We were not well represented.
We were not. And even today, as we speak, we have, with tremendous respect to every member of the National Assembly who may be listening to us or viewing us, they have become docile, complicit in all this. Now, Section 8, Subsection 9 of the Treaty-Making Ratification Act forbids them in express terms, and it says, and I quote it, the National Assembly shall not, they are bound, this is in mandatory terms, shall not approve the ratification of a treaty or part of it if its provisions are contrary to the Constitution, nor shall the House approve a reservation to a treaty or part of it if that reservation negates any of the provisions of the Constitution, even if the reservation is permitted under the relevant treaty. In other words, we're saying we are sovereign.
So we're essentially saying that our law, or the Kenyan law, supersedes the tenets of any treaty or an agreement that comes into place. So what needs to be considered before the elements of that treaty is what the sovereign law of the state says first.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying, just to answer him, that we are supposed to have oversight. That oversight has completely been overrun by this bulldozing executive. And what should happen is that these people should wake up to their duty and responsibility, the members of the National. And let me remind them that if you violate the law, you're a member of the National Assembly. We can have you removed halfway through your term and just about the corner. And we can get the voters to tell you that, look, you are not serving us. You're serving some foreign interest or some foreign entity, and you're not helping us. How does this implicate you, Muga, just to answer you? Now, the National Assembly fails to oversight and they rubber stamp. Finds herself with a bill from KRA or via the Finance Act and tells you, oh, you know, your taxes have been increased. Come on. This is because someone has allowed us to get into this mess of a hole. And we're not even asking, you're signing this treaty, you're signing this agreement, you're coming us to this loan. For what?
Wakili, is it possible? And, you know, this is the thing. Sometimes CT asks that we may be charging somebody with responsibility that far outweighs the capability. Often said that you cannot judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. So is it possible that there is lack of knowledge about, and it sounds naive, but it is true, that for some of these things it's possible that people who listen today have heard it for the first time. It is just as possible, yes, that members of parliament who are tasked with this responsibility have also heard it for the first time.
With tremendous respect. It could be, but it just shows what I was reading in Section 6, Subsection 2. competence is a requirement, and this is a law they passed. You have no business being a member of National Assembly or the Senate or even an MCA if you do not know the basic law that you're supposed to be applying, against which you're supposed to be judging the executive, and against which you're supposed to be telling the executive, look, you are out of line. Which of these members of National Assembly will tell the executive that you are out of line? And in fact, look at the responsibility the Constitution places on the president, that during the national address, he is supposed, under the Constitution, he is supposed to tell us these are the international obligations that Kenya has. Kenya owes this money, and we are supposed to be doing this as the executive. That is the mandate placed on him. And where does he suppose? We're supposed to be articulating this, not on June 1st, Madaraka Day. He's supposed to be in the National Assembly, in the House, which is a joint sitting, and then they are supposed to question it. But what do they do? What does he do, for instance, on his end? Oh, he converts this into, oh, you know, my government has achieved this. Oh, my government has achieved that. Come on. That is out of your ambit. You are out. If I were a member of National Assembly, I would have spoken last address. I don't know. You're out of line. You are supposed to be telling us what are international obligations you committed us into over the past year, and for which then we stand obligated over the coming year. That is what they're supposed to be telling him. But what do they do? Oh, you know, we have this and that, and then we have achieved. And
you make a valid point that the members of parliament don't put into practice the oversight role they have in such matters. But they wouldn't. If again I'm to follow your argument, it is very possible, but these matters we speak of go through the processes, and they actually do end up in parliament. And if parliament is the lame duck we see it as being, I am of that opinion, I have not changed it, then it means due process actually was followed. So that even when the president is taking the steps he's taking,
he's gone to parliament.
He has gone to parliament, and parliament has accepted it.
There's a distinction. Allow me. There's a distinction there between the antecedents, the processes that are supposed to precede a treaty ratification, which you quoted very elaborately, and the report he's supposed to give to you and I through the forum. Absolutely. That's a distinction.
So that particular process is actually not followed to the letter.
So the State of the Nation address should be addressing, saying
it's
these
like
are
a
the
report.
commitments I've made.
Yes.
In terms of our sovereignty, this is where we stand.
Yes.
In
This is like a
terms of
report.
our boundary is intact.
Yes.
In terms of wars with neighboring countries or wherever we are at
so
war.
essentially it's an accountability statement.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. And then the members of National Assembly are supposed to tell him, wait a minute, you're not being accountable. Remember, you went to South Korea. You committed us to 65 billion. We do not see that in a State of the Nation address. Who's going to pay for that? How is it going to be paid for? How did you arrive at that commitment? You are out of line, and therefore you have violated the Constitution. We should be impeaching you. That's the answer they should be giving him.
Okay.
During the State of the Nation address.
Now that you've put it that way, you know, I am still lost at making the distinction between treaties and agreements such as these bilateral loans and so on and so forth. I can see treaties. I have seen Parliament getting involved in ratifying the Kenya-EU Economic Partnership Agreement. All right? I have seen Parliament being involved in the Kenya-UK trade agreement. Parliament, I expect, will be involved should the executive complete the current phase that it's going through with negotiating with America on the next trade agreement with America. If it goes through, if it goes to Cabinet and Cabinet approves it, I expect that Parliament shall then discuss it. See, those ones I can see treaty going through, getting into the process, Parliament discussing, Parliament making amendments. Loans. If the executive strikes a deal for a concessional loan with a member country, at what point should Parliament, the people of Kenya, be informed? Is it at the point where we have a need for, we have a 63 billion shilling hole in the budget and we'd like to get your consent to go and seek loan? Or is it we have gotten an offer for a loan from South Korea and we'd like you to approve it? Or we have signed the loan with South Korea and this is for your information?
Tu made a very weighty, very significant point when at the very beginning she said, look, these loans, these agreements, these so-called meetings with the international benefactors, if we were to call them, I would call them buccaneers. They are not a kiosk meeting. You do not at the spur of the moment decide. These are events that are planned. For instance, what happened now in South Korea, it involved 1, 2, 3, 4, 25, 45, or whatever number of leaders of their respective countries. It didn't happen overnight. Now, the presumption in the Treaty Making and Ratification Act is that you will have received this proposition, say for instance from the South Korean government, and they say that we will offer you a concession loan. That is contained in a document. Remember, the definition that I gave in Section 2 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act means that anything that is between a nation, another state, and Kenya, that is reduced into a formal agreement. Now, there is a presumption in the law that this particular formal agreement that you have has been circulated or sent to you in advance, so that then you're able to consider, will Kenya sign off the 65 billion loan? Then, through the processes which you mentioned earlier on, the president is supposed then to take to the National Assembly. We will be borrowing this money, this concession loan, and this is a concession we'll be giving. Muga mentioned something about China. Today, I am horrified that China, in that agreement, and the SGR agreement, to begin with, but more specifically, decided to take over KBC. Some chunk of the time between KBC radio, KBC, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation radio, between midnight and I think 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. It is all Chinese. It's all Chinese.
It's part of the agreement.
That's part of the agreement.
Oh my word.
Absolutely. And it goes to what she was saying about our sovereignty. It is said in black and white. Eric, what you say you're a black and white in Article 4.1 of the Constitution. Kenya is a sovereign republic.
Yep.
Oh, President Ruto, you are not at liberty to sell off my country. And I'm telling you, posterity and future is owed a country that is free from buccaneering.
Harrison Kinyanjui, advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a commentator on matters of governance. You'll come again soon, okay?
Thank you very much, Eric.
It's 8 a.m.
IPOA says that the delay in ballistic reports has resulted in up to 60 people who are allegedly shot by police not getting justice. Appearing before a parliamentary committee, IPOA said that the laboratory located at the DCI headquarters is the greatest hindrance to justice.
This forensic process, the burden still lies with DCI. And so we have to depend on DCI to give us answers to some of these forensic questions that we want. The forensic laboratory is domiciled at the headquarters of DCI.
IPOA further told the committee led by Githunguri MP Gathoni Wamachomba that the Chief Inspector of Police, Japheth Kome, has refused to cooperate with them in an investigation of the death of a 1-year-old child who died while at the Kambu police station in the company of the detained mother.
IPOA is seized of the matter. We are already actively investigating this case, and so far we have already met with the mother, Zipporah Mudeu. We've taken statements. We have already taken all the police records, including the duty roster. What is outstanding amongst the other few remaining is the postmortem, which is happening on Wednesday.
Public Service CS Moses Kuria has urged county governments to devise ways that will improve the lives of residents and reduce the cost of living. Speaking in Kiambu County, Kuria urged the governors to invest more in agriculture, explaining that it's the best way to deal with unemployment and strengthen food security.
Agriculture is Kenya and Kenya is agriculture. And so therefore, please, County of Kiambu, I have heard Makerere about giving out those devil's chicks and all that. Continue, muendelee namna hiyo. Na mwende mtafute zingine, hata za ng'ombe, na nguruwe na everything. Why? Because if we sort out agriculture, we don't only sort out jobs, we sort out food, and most important, we sort out cost of living.
Public service bosses have been warned against engaging in corruption. Head of Public Service Felix Kiskei said that those found guilty of the vice will be arrested and brought to book, further urging managers to maintain integrity and avoid public funds wastage.
Ladies and gentlemen who are in this hall,
please, as you go back home, pass a message that there is zero tolerance to corruption in this government. And by extension, you have to make sure that public funds don't end up in people's pockets, don't enrich the few, while the general population are suffering. It has to stop.
A day after Coast Region governors declined an invite for a consultative meeting with Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi to discuss the Muguka ban, MPs in the region have followed suit. The lawmakers under the Coast Parliamentary Group and MPs for Taita Taveta, Mombasa and Kilifi declined to attend the meeting, saying they view Muguka as an illicit drug. The MPs said that they act with firm and clear instructions from their constituents. The leaders called on the CS to remove Miraa and Muguka as scheduled crops from the Crops Act. 11 people, including prison officers and inmates who were injured when a Kenya prison service vehicle was involved in a road accident in Homa Bay town, continue receiving treatment at Homa Bay County Referral Hospital. County Prisons Commander Robert Besigwe said the injured persons were 5 prison officers and 6 inmates who had boarded the vehicle. He adds that they sustained injuries when the Land Cruiser van belonging to Rachunyo GK prison lost control and overturned on Rongo Homa Bay Highway last evening.
Majina naitwa Jacob kutoka Homa Bay County, lakini siku ya leo tulikuwa hapa town kitu kama saa 11 hivi. Kuna gari ya polisi imetoka huko juu na mbio sana. Sasa ikifika karibu na supermarket inaitwa Videa ikaruka. Asanteni.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Obaga.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Langata Road traffic is busy this morning and it's joining to what's happening on Raila Odinga Way. But this particular traffic goes all the way through to Uhuru Highway and then out into the city. Your junctions around that area, Lusaka Road coming off Langata Road and then through towards Bunyala and then out towards Haile Selassie. That's busy as you go over that drift. Also looking at traffic heavy coming in on Gong Road out towards the CBD. Let's take a look at what's going on. James Gishuru heading out towards the Red Hill Link Road. Inbound on the Red Hill Link Road, there's some traffic. Some of that is going to spill over to Waiaki Way. The rest of that back on James Gishuru. That's where there's in and outbound traffic. On the Thika Superhighway this morning, it is thick with traffic and it's coming in heavy from the Allsops Junction out towards Gara. And then Gara going out to the CBD is also busy as you get towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. All right, we're in traffic hour. It's busy. Let's take a look at what happens in about half hour or so as we get through Wednesday morning. We'll talk on Spice FM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Have you taken advantage of the KRA tax amnesty program? You should. City, please tell them why.
Well, for a very simple reason. An amnesty simply means you're being given a second chance.
Yes.
You're being given a breather.
Yes.
Where KRA is concerned, it means you owed taxes.
Yes.
And since you didn't pay on time, should we say certain penalties were added to it?
Yes.
And there's something called interest rate that was also added to it. Now, this amnesty equals, as we say, a removal of these levies, these additionals from your tax. And KRA is saying, you know, if you come to us and we come to an understanding and we agree on a payment plan, we will forget the interest, we will forget the penalties. And with this payment plan, all we'll want you to do is to pay the principal.
But
there's a deadline. This month of June, it's important that we do this before the 30th. Because after that, unfortunately, that amnesty will then not apply.
Amnesty lapses, that means you pay principal plus interest plus penalty.
And remember, that amount you're speaking of will acquire the same again. There will be now interest on that amount which already had interest, and a penalty on the penalty that was already on that amount that already had a penalty.
So it becomes an interesting amount.
It will be a very compounded amount. Yes.
How do you get in touch with them, Ndu?
You give them a call, first of all, on 0711 099 999, and somebody on the other end of the phone will tell you what you need to do, or you can log on to the website. It's www.kra.go.ke. You go to the ITAC section, and then you go to the debt and enforcement area. There's 6 steps that you follow, pretty easy for you to go through, and you make the amnesty application, go through the steps, and by the end of that, you'll be on your way to making sure that things are in order by the 30th of June. So log on, call, do the things you need to do, and everybody will be happy.
Very good. This Friday will be the 7th of June. And the 7th of June is what day? It's a World Food Safety Day.
That's what I said.
World Food Safety Day. What is food safety? Your food is safe. Or your
sources of food are safe and secure, and they are sustainable over time.
Okay.
But doesn't it go beyond?
Is it
just
safety
that?
about not stealing the food? Or
I think it's encompassing all that. I mean, adequacy, meaning is it enough? But I also think, is it nutritious? Is it sufficient for your needs?
Yes.
And then, is it sustainable? Is it something that you can reliably take for granted, meaning it will be there? Yes.
Food safety.
Yes, because in the absence of all this, if you're getting it once every 2 months, there's no safety there.
No.
Yeah.
So safety is all about those things.
Yes, because that's
it's about access, it's about affordability, and so on and so forth. We have a policy in this country on foods. Anyway, so ahead of the Friday commemoration of World Food Safety Day, we want to have a World Food Safety conversation, preparing for the unexpected. And we are joined by 2 guests. One of them is Pil Annette Home Mogo. I got it right, huh? I got it right. Pil Annette Home Mogo. Those are 4 names. Just don't think that I'm just saying Home Mogo.
Those are all her names.
Those are all her names.
It's very good. It's good to come to the studio with all your names.
Yeah. And this Mogo is spelled this way. M, not O, A, A, G, A, A, R, D. Mogo.
That's how it's pronounced. That is a lovely, unique name.
Yes. Yeah. She is the Sector Advisor on Food Safety at the Royal Danish Embassy in Nairobi. Good morning, Pil.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. She's joined by Godfrey Nyangori. Godfrey is the Program Manager for Agrifi. What is Agrifi, Godfrey?
Agriculture Financing Initiative.
It's
an EU and Danida funded program that's supporting Kenya to build a strong food safety control mechanism in the country, encompassing the national government and the county government.
These are those guys we're waiting for, Eric, isn't
These are the ones.
These are the guys.
These are the guys.
Yes.
These are the guys. Welcome to the conversation. Number 1, as we welcome you, is to tell you about food. Food, source of protein, meat. Not just meat, but beef. Okay? Pil, I know you know beef. And you also know chicken. Now, there's a company in this country that's been here for decades, and they have perfected the chicken value chain from hatchery all the way to the plate. And they're called Kenchik. Now, for those many years, of course, Godfrey, you know Kenchik very well, right?
Yeah.
At some years, did you used to go to those Kenchik eateries?
Yeah.
Best cuckoo. Going like this and then the somersaulting cuckoos. So they closed those ones, but now they just close the franchises, but they supply the people who still run. So many of the places that you go to, Kenchik is the leading supplier of chicken. Day-old chicks to chicken meat. even in the supermarket, branded chicken. Now they've decided, because we know a lot about meat, how about we actually move into the other sector of meat, beef. And now they have started Ken Beef by Kenchick. They contracted farmers in Laikipia County. Cattle that's being reared very well, eating the best grass in Laikipia, walking around, enjoying, sleeping, getting up, eating more, taking milk, salt, natural. Okay? Then they slaughter. And then they now bring it out into the various differentiated products. For example, they have beef sausages. They have beef, what are those things called?
Bruvos.
Yeah, bruvos. Yeah, we have macon. We have burgers. All of them now available in the local market, local supermarket, local retail chains with the brand Ken Beef by Kenchick. So the next time you're going to buy your meat and you see Ken Beef by Kenchick, trust it. It's good. In fact, try it. And we'll reach out to you for feedback. So, okay? All right, City, welcome our guests with the day's proverb.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Gambia.
Right.
Okay, or the Gambia. Okay. The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty.
The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty.
Yes. Operative word, not talkative, too talkative.
Godfrey, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
Well, from my perspective, I would look at it in terms of when you listen more, you probably will get much more to share.
That's a good one. The more you listen, the more you have to share.
Yeah.
Okay. Peel, what's your interpretation?
Well, I think it's a really interesting pick for a radio show to start off with. I think if you're talking too much, you're not working.
You're talking too much, you're not working.
Yes, there was a guest who was here before you who had a similar view that this proverb shouldn't apply to this show.
Don't talk too much.
Yes.
This is too much talk.
Yes.
Okay. I want to start with you, Godfrey. So you've briefly given us, the organization that you work for. Please tell us again, nicely, slowly. What's this program?
Yeah. I'm Godfrey Nyangori. I work for a development organization called Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust. This is an organization that was founded by the government of Kenya and the government of Denmark through a trust. And we have a reputation of building a prosperous society. And we address very many pressing problems in Kenya, the food safety problem, the climate change problem, the access to finance, and mainly addressing the challenge of youth and women unemployment. It's an organization that mainly has a model. And in this model, where we look at the market and try to address what the market require in terms of quantity and quality. And we do that by first starting at the market when we are working with smallholder farmers. And once we know what the market requires in terms of quantity, then we work very closely with them to increase productivity, knowing that the market requires quantity and knowing where the market is. And if there are constraints in between, we come in with access to finance to support them increase their productivity. And if the market requires quality, then that's how this program come in to support issues of food safety and standards. And we come in to support the farmers and the government to make sure that they put in place mechanism to address food safety concern, because the food safety means trade. When you produce what is fit for the market, then you are able to sell in any market, whether it's local market or export markets.
Right.
So that's what we are. But as we do that, we ensure that whatever that is done, it's done sustainably, looking at the climate change, so that the future generations can also have a planet to inherit.
Good one.
Yeah.
Phil, you are the sector advisor on food safety at the Royal Danish Embassy in Nairobi. I don't suppose you are advising the embassy on food safety. So who do you advise?
So I'm a liaison between the Kenyan and the Danish government on matters food safety, and the project here is actually it's a little different from other development projects because this is an on-demand project. So where a lot of development projects, they come in and they say this is what we're going to do. This project is different in the way that we ask Kenya, what do you need? What do you want? Which strongholds do we have in Denmark that you would like us to help you capacity build within? And the answer from the Kenyan government, they did a big survey and they came up with a lot of topics. And the answer they came with was, we need to increase food safety in Kenya. So because of that, this project was made, and it dates back from the start was 2016. Obviously, the survey was before that, and it has been running since 2016.
So I want to ask the question that we started, debating amongst ourselves. What is food safety? How would you define food safety?
Well, food safety is the assurance that what you eat, what sustains you, does not make you sick.
Okay. So it's whether the food is harmful or not.
Yes, very simply put.
I see. How do you determine that?
That is a very technical question, because you can get sick acutely immediately after you eat something. You can die from several things immediately after you eat them, but it can also be something that makes you sick by and by. So maybe in 20 years' time you will be sick. So anything within the scale of being sick today or being sick in the long haul and being harmed by what you ingest in the long haul will fall within that scale.
So, are we saying that there are foods in their natural build-up which could make folks sick?
Absolutely.
Or are we saying that practices by countries in terms of agriculture then are yielding harvests which are then ingested by people? So those practices are flawed. What exactly then would chalk up to food safety? That foods in their natural build-up are harmful, or that practices could then lead to harmful foods? What are we saying?
Both, actually, because some foods that we ingest are actually harmful in their natural state, but through processing becomes less harmful. Like cooking can remove some of the toxins from that are natural in some of the foods. And like, I think the sweet potatoes, some of them you can eat as they are raw, but others need cooking to become edible. But it's also during the process that things can go wrong. So you can have something which is safe when you harvest it or slaughter it, but it becomes unsafe during the following steps before you eat it.
Okay. Is this something that has come about as a result of urbanization? Because if we look at the foods that naturally occur, they've been eaten by people for hundreds of years. They've come from the earth, they've been consumed. Or are we saying that people who've ingested these foods over time have been sick and were not aware? Or have we realized now with science that perhaps there is a danger?
So people have always been eating things that were not good for them, and they've always gotten sick from that. And actually a lot of the things that previously would make people sick are now eradicated around the world through food safety.
Do you have examples of this?
Yeah, I think there are really a lot of examples around this where we have eradicated different fungi, different, like eating something raw that should be cooked to make it safe. So I think there are multiple examples around this area.
Why I ask the question is, you see, when you get to a point where you have a store of knowledge that enables you to take an advisory role. It means it's something you've experienced over time. So I'm going to ask you to go back to your country. The food and safety processes and protocols that they have, it's born out of experience and a certain understanding. What is it, for instance, that over time in Denmark, people consumed, and with that same time they realized perhaps we need to give people a warning about consuming this, or if they're to consume it in a certain manner?
I think that there are two answers to your question, because one is about eradicating something, an illness, a fungi, from the entire ecosystem, making it not there anymore. Kind of like the same way you do when you vaccinate people, you can eradicate an illness, a human illness. The same thing is possible for crops and for animals. So you can do that. The other part of the question is, what are we doing in my country?
Yes.
We have a very systemic approach. So we have a whole value chain. We have the One Health approach, and we work all the way from the water and the earth and what goes onto your plate. So I think, and that's an EU approach as well, and it's very, very successful in the EU in eradicating a lot of these things, but also preventing new happenings taking place, so that something that was safe at harvest does not become unsafe at a later stage.
You've introduced a good concept, health. Tell us how this plays into it, because when you think health, I'm thinking medical personnel, I'm thinking hospitals, I'm thinking healthcare.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's actually key, because the thing about food safety is that it's preventive health, and food safety issues are really only visible when the system fails, because as long as it works, you're healthy. So it's one of the paradoxes of working within this area is that nobody knows you are there unless you made a failure. Yeah. So that's quite an interesting space to be in. You're only visible when you fail.
In fact, you see what occurs to me as you're speaking, because I'm thinking, there are people, for instance, who have allergies. There are things they cannot eat. As I've grown older, I've heard of people who are lactose intolerant. Somehow milk products and them don't quite agree. They agreed to them on an earlier part. Some people eat certain foods which they ate at a certain point in time, but now they cannot eat. Other people acquire certain ailments, and those ailments preclude them from consuming certain products. So when you said health, this is what was going through my mind. But let me ask the question. When you look at the partnerships that is it the government of Denmark or is it the Kingdom of Denmark? Which one is it?
The government of the kingdom.
The government.
The government of the kingdom of Denmark, right?
Yes. What are some of the areas that you have observed are most needful and or mostly require the sort of partnership and assistance and advice that you've been able to offer?
I think, going back to the start of your question about what is health when regarding food, I think one of the things that's overlooked, because allergies are very, very serious, as are intolerances, but they are more of an individual health issue rather than a population health issue. A population health issue would be if you poison an entire school. They would otherwise be healthy. While intolerances and allergies are part of what you have inside of you as a person, of your personal health. They're not put to you from the outside. So if you have an entire party, you have an entire school, you have an entire workspace, which becomes sick because of something they ingested. And you started this talk show about talking about food security, and how does food security link to food safety? The thing is that if you're acute sick with diarrhea, it does not matter how much access you have to food. Your body will not be able to absorb it. It's going to come right out again. So if the food you're eating makes you sick, it doesn't matter if you have all the best, most nutritious, high quality food in the world, your body will not be able to absorb it. So I think that's something that's overlooked when you talk about food safety and food security in Kenya. If you have all the food you need, for all the people you need. If people, they're vomiting, they cannot ingest it. It doesn't matter.
Okay. So, Godfrey, can we go to then, when we talk then about the same food safety, and mentioning before, when we look at agriculture and the sources of water, for example, that you use for irrigation, the character of the seed or, the sucklings that you plant, that then we have many issues where we talk about where plantations run, for example, and the polluted rivers that may feed into those. Do these all chalk up to the safety of the food that you realize in harvest?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. To answer your question, because I'm a development practitioner, I would look at it just as she said. It's a systemic issue, and it's an issue to do with standards. And part of the work that we've done in collaboration with the Danish government in Kenya is to address it in two perspectives. One, in terms of skills development across the value chain of farmer. And what we've done in Kenya is we've worked very hard to develop institutional and legal frameworks, especially at the county levels, to be able to help farmers gain the proper skills. What that helps is, it's in Kenya that we've had situation where, the run for profits has made, Kenya's become a little bit unethical. Yeah, at whatever stage.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You find a farmer having two sets of farm, one for home use, and another where they do all manner of things. That's for the market. So what we've done is we've worked with selected county governments to develop policies and legal frameworks, and also support institutions that would be key for knowledge and skills dissemination and training, and also be hubs where farmers can get proper data. And these are helping now to bridge issues of advisory. And in Kenya, the extension services had collapsed. And what we've done with these institutions are called the Agricultural Training Center. So what my organization, through the support of the European Union and Denmark, DANIDA, have done is to be able to look at how do we make our farmers be competent, have the right attitude, because the issue of having two sets of farm is an attitude issue, and have the right competencies. Just like when you take your child to do a training in a TVET, and let's say they do hairdressing or they do carpentry, you'll never doubt their competencies. The moment they walk out of that institution, when you take your clothes to be mended by a tailor, you'll have confidence that it will be done the right way. They have the right skills sets, the right attitude, and the right. So we are trying to borrow that and get it to agriculture.
Okay.
And also make sure that any farmer who wants to get into commercial farming, he has some form of professional training. On the other side, the model we have taken is regulation. That is where the weak link is. We have so many multiple agencies in Kenya that address food safety, but they don't work together, they don't coordinate. So what we've done, and with again the support of the Danish experts, we've set up platforms where now these agencies, whether it's public health, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade, Water and Irrigation, they are able to come through the One Health approach, and they are able to coordinate and address food safety concern. And now through the value chain, all those production issues are addressed in a more systemic way, all through from farm to fork.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 9. Our guests this morning are P. Lynette Holm Mogo. She's a sector advisor on food safety at the Royal Danish Embassy in Nairobi. Godfrey Nyangori is a program manager with the Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust. They deal a lot with food safety and basically supporting market systems across the country. This conversation continues shortly. The conversation is about food safety ahead of the World Food Safety Day that will be marked globally on Friday.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We will see highs of 25 and lows of 15. We're looking into a sunny Nakuru at 16 with highs of 26 and lows of 14. 25 will be the high in Nyeri, where it's sunny at 16, and foggy morning in Eldoret. 16 highs of 25 and lows of 13. It's sunny this morning in Mombasa at 26. We'll see highs of 32 and 31 will be the high in Malindi, where the sun is up at 27. It's sunny at 23 in Kisumu with highs of 30, and into Kakamega at 21. Sunny conditions with highs of 30 and lows of 17. Kampala at 24 is sunny with highs of 29, and looking into a sunny Dar es Salaam at 25. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24. All right, looking into Johannesburg, where it's sunny at 4, highs of 18, and into Mogadishu 29 and sunny, 18 and sunny in Addis Ababa, while Lagos is sunny at 26. We'll see highs of 32, and the sun is up in Kinshasa at 22, going to highs of 33.
Chilled Spice.
All right, still in traffic hour. Where are we now? Looking at traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway, that has decreased significantly. Still going to get to Survey, and then it's going to slow down a bit as you get out towards the city this morning. So that bumper-to-bumper traffic take you all the way through towards the Pangani underpass and then out towards the city. Kangunda Road has been busy, still is, trying to get through towards Outer Ring. And then as you get past and onto the Thika Superhighway from Outer Ring, there's some traffic just there at the junction, but you'll be able to get out of that in no time. Heavy on Ryle Odinga Way, getting towards the City Mortuary roundabout, and it still continues on Jago Road. Landis now is jam-packed, and some of that traffic is seeping onto Lusaka Road, trying to find an outlet to the city where traffic is heavy. Keeping an eye on things, let's see what happens at the top of the hour. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Our food safety conversation continues with Pilanet Muga from the Royal Danish Embassy in Nairobi and Godfrey Nyang'ori from the Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust. Godfrey, I want to come to you, and when we talk about, just like Ndu had mentioned, from the very beginning, we'll talk about food safety. I guess we will begin from the quality of the soil. Is the soil contaminated? Is the water that we use contaminated? Are the inputs contaminated? Are we using the right fertilizer or the wrong fertilizer? Are we overusing the fertilizer? Are we using the right insecticides, pesticides? Are we using the wrong ones? All the way to the point of harvest. After harvest, the handling of the food, right? Are we exposing it to toxins? Are we getting aflatoxin because of not proper drying? So the safety of the food is really affected by very many things, which are, some are in the control of the farmer and many are not in the control of the farmer. So how do you help the farmer to know what is in their control and what's not?
Thank you. I think I'll tackle it the way Peel had said. The main focus is on prevention. using the risk-based approach. And what we've done with Kenya is in terms of building the capacity of various institutions. For example, it's important to have a very robust monitoring, surveillance, and enforcement system, right on how systems are developed, ensuring the farmers and the food business operators who are involved in seed development up to the task in terms of the parameters that have been provided by the scientists, all through to planting, to the water they use, setting standards that are required. But more importantly is building the institutional and legal frameworks. For example, because we know food is produced at county level. And through the help of the Danish Veterinary Food Authority, we've been able to build the capacity of county inspectors and the national government, we call them the central competent authorities, to be able to set very robust surveillance mechanism at the county level, using a risk-based approach, and making sure that agencies across the board, they are able to interact. For example, one of the reasons why we have in Kenya a lot of things falling off, it's because we have a kind of a police system. When the food business operator know that the police is coming, they run away. But what we are trying to do is a shift and take the responsibility to the food business operator. And this leaves the role of the government, whether it's national or county government, to just come and check and ensure that the food business operator are doing the right thing. So we've done quite a lot of investment in coming up with policies, bills that can be able to support the government do their work rightfully, building their capacities. We've brought experts from Denmark to train our national government and county government. We've reviewed quite a number of legislations to address that. We've built capacity of all the food business operators, right from the seed system all through to distribution and marketing.
Sounds like you've done quite a bit of work, and that's commendable. You have built capacity, you've supported in coming up with policies and legislative framework, but then the issue comes with implementation and enforcement. I'm going to give you an example, and even Peel can come in here. As you're talking, I was thinking of farmers in Makueni. Makueni, they have rivers that are downstream from Nairobi. Those rivers are then these ones in Nairobi, and you know what's happening into rivers in Nairobi. There's a lot of pollution, industrial waste getting into these rivers. It just goes all the way into Machakos, into Makueni, and it'll go into Kilifi and into the coast. Those farmers are using water. They have no control over the quality of water that's coming to them, but the water is clearly contaminated. So what do the farmers have to do then to ensure the safety of the food that they're growing? Bill?
So it's a very general question, because it depends on what they're growing and what kind of contaminants are in the water and how they use them. So you're asking a very, very technical question here. I think the importance of this risk-based approach is very well illustrated by what you're mentioning here, because the risk-based approach, it has two steps. And one is for the business owner, in this case, your farmer downriver, to know the risks of their business. And by the risk-based approach, you do not go in and you tell the business how to solve the issues, because once you tell the business owner, this is how you have to do it, they have no other choice but to do it in this manner. And maybe because they know their area and they know their business better than maybe a government official from another county, they had a better solution. Now they can't use it because they've been told this is what you have to do. By the risk-based approach, you tell them you have this issue, it needs to be solved. And then it is for them to come up with what is the best way for this particular issue to be solved in my business, in my area, because I do know my area and my business the best. It's mine. Yeah. So the risk-based approach is not prohibitive in giving the solution to the business owners. It's telling them what do you need to achieve. And then the business owner can then, together with the government, together with research institutions, find the best, most innovative solution. So this is the systemic approach. You don't give the answer, but you give tools to help find the best answer. Because otherwise, this would just be copy-pasting what we do in the EU. And that might not be very well thought out for Kenya.
So then there are no set parameters within which you can then say a nation is food safe. Essentially, are we saying that for each nation, depending on what you find where you are, those are the parameters that you would then use to determine the safety of the food? You can't apply standards or apply rules, as it were, that you use in another jurisdiction to say that Kenya's food is safe or unsafe. Can you? Can you say that these are the steps that we want you to take, or these are the rules that you would want to follow? Because we're looking now at a global declaration, right? We're saying that there are certain things that we need to look out for, because if food is not safe, then we're essentially staring down the walls of the tunnel of a disaster, right? So are there then set aside practices that you say, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you can get to the place where your food essentially would be declared safe?
Yes and no.
Okay, do both.
Yes. To say that food is safe, you can say food is safe, but in the case where you say food is safe, you will have tested all the food and there's no food left to eat. So it's not a practical solution. What you need to do is build systems that ensure that at every step of the processing, the risks that are known to you are mitigated.
All right.
But there will be risks that are unknown. And I think the theme of this year's World Food Safety Day, Prepare for the Unexpected, is really addressing that. Because how do you prevent something that you do not know about? That doesn't exist yet. How would we in 2014 prevent COVID? We couldn't. We didn't know it was going to come. Right?
Right.
So to your answer, we can prevent risks that we are aware of. We have systems in place to identify new risks and handle them early. But we cannot prevent new things from happening that we don't know about.
How many of the dangers or the threats that we see can then be traced directly to food? Because then what that does is that it then creates beautifully the arena where you will say, you know what, we are seeing 1, 2, 3 in the society, in community, and we can trace this back to food. Therefore, something needs to be done there. Can we see the connection between the two? Can we see the connection between ails in community today, ailments, and say that this is as a result of food?
Unsafe
because
food
like you
consumed
said,
over
food.
years.
Yes,
People have gone to
absolutely.
hospital. We've seen an index that has been created over time, and then we say as a result of this, we've seen that people have been sick, and so therefore this is the area that we need to look. Can we draw that line?
Yes, absolutely. For a lot of diseases, we can do so, and I think for children under 5, food poisoning, food safety issues are the second greatest cause of death for children under 5 in East Africa. So absolutely we can do that for a lot of the diseases. Yeah.
If I follow the trajectory or the path that you mentioned, it's actually very good. Well, I can actually picture it. When you look at food, you talk about water, you talk about the soil. Now, when you talk of contamination, it could come from the water into the soil, or it could come from elsewhere. Now, if I look at human interaction and the environment in which they live, some of the most, should we say, long-lasting lessons have been learned, have often been born out of disaster. Okay, for instance, when industrialization first came to Europe, it took the plague for them to understand that when you live in cities and it is not wise to live in very close quarters and to live in very unhygienic conditions. A third of the population of the planet had to sort of like die from it for people to figure out that this wasn't a good way of doing it. Water is a problem. Water is contaminated in this country. Water is contaminated in areas that are considered to be industrial. Now, these are things that the Western world has learned from. They've learned it very well. How then does one save the lives of those who are downstream in the Tana Delta, those who are in Eastern Province? Because we who are in Nairobi and who are the most industrialized have contaminated their water and by so doing contaminated their soil.
So I think your case saying that we learn from disaster is really key here, because that's not what we want to do. We want to prevent disasters.
Yes.
We want to prevent things from happening, and that's where the systemic approach that we're working at together with MISP comes in. Because, like you said, the Western world has learned through the disasters. We don't really feel that Kenya needs to do the same learning. You can learn from what we did and what we did wrong. So you do not need to repeat the things that we did. And like you said, we put systems in place to prevent this happening, to prevent the disasters happening. And through the work with the national government, with the county government, all the way out to the farmers, which we have with the MISP, this is what we've been trying to put in place.
I want to ask again about inputs, and particularly now on pesticides. So, for example, a study conducted in 2020 by the Route to Food Initiative showed that hazardous pesticides accounted for over 75% of the total pesticides volume in Kenya, and nearly half were substances that are already banned in other markets like in the EU. So you have pesticides that are available in the market, farmers are using, farmers just trust. I mean, if it's here, it's in a local agrovet, it's approved by the government, I go, I purchase, I use it. But it's hazardous. As the farmer, I am not aware of any dangers. As a consumer, I'm not aware of any dangers. But the government, is it aware? And what's then is my role, because you're saying this is demand driven, what's my role as a consumer to now start tracing back into what's gone into this food that I'm eating? Godfrey.
Yeah, and I think this is where we go to the statement, food safety is everyone's business. And that's why, again, I go back to what Pil said, that we are addressing this in a systemic way, where we are building the capacity of national and county governments to be able to ensure that they can be able to enforce food safety the way it's required. We are building the capacity of the private sector to be a responsible partner and make sure they take responsibility when it comes to matters food safety. And part of what we are doing now is consumer awareness, to ensure that the consumer can be able to understand that if it's not safe, it's not food. So all these three key partners in ecosystem play a critical role. The moment we put, in fact, at one point we were discussing and say, looking at the statistics, they are putting almost like 450, 440 people die on food-related diseases in Kenya. Those are statistics that are out there. They are talking of so much number of children. If a matatu of 14-seater crash, there would be an uproar. Yeah. But we are talking of children over 200 dying in a year. That should not be happening in modern time. That's why we are saying we need to put more information. In fact, we need to create partnership with media houses to be able to bring in the issue of food safety, because I think the conversation has been food security.
Yeah.
But now we are telling them, if it's not safe, it's not food.
So then, how do we as consumers get to know what's safe and what's not? I go to a market, I'm buying vegetables, I'm buying fruit, I'm buying whatever I'm buying for consumption. How can I tell that this is food? In other markets, you can say, there are all these things that you can put in place. Traceability, because it's coming from one large farm. We have many smallholder farms in this country. How can I tell what I buy from the local market, which has been bought from the marikiti in town, which was brought by a canter in the middle of the night from God knows where, how do I tell that this is safe food? Bill?
So I think I would like to start a little bit in another place, and I will answer your question, because it seems to be a awareness in this country that what you buy is unsafe at the time that you buy it. But actually, most of the illnesses in Kenya happen because of handling after you buy it in your own kitchen. So a lot of the surveys that's been done, especially on acute food poisoning in children, shows that these are things that are easily preventable in the home, in your own kitchen. So I think one of the places to start as a consumer is your awareness of how do you, in your kitchen, cooking your food, stay safe. So a lot of the diarrhea that we see, a lot of that actually is really, really detrimental to children, and is one of the things that they do die from, are caused by bacteria, which will be inactivated, mean killed, at 65 degrees of heating. So the heating happens in the kitchen.
So it is very possible that the food has reached your kitchen and it is safe.
Yes. But the handling in the kitchen makes it unsafe.
So the handling then, so if we're looking at handling in food, and if you can trace that back to a certain percentage of the country, so then you can say that food in its safety, if we're using that index to then describe it, in its makeup from the time it's left farm, it's done whatever, it's actually safe until it gets to kitchens.
Yes.
So we're looking at different sources where unsafety essentially then can come into play.
Exactly, and that is why we're talking about a systemic approach. It hits your plate. At that point, it needs to be safe, and you can make it unsafe yourself. So you can try and buy safe food. Obviously, you need to do that, but you also have to treat it right all the way out into your own kitchen. And it's not talked about a lot. It's talked about a lot. Everybody else has to take responsibility. But food safety is everybody's business, also every consumer's own. So yeah, to get back to your question, how do I know if what I'm buying is safe? The truth is you cannot see a pesticide, you cannot see bacteria, you cannot very clearly smell them. So a lot of these toxins, they're not visible, they're odorless, they're tasteless. So in this case, what it needs to be done is, again, it's the systemic approach, that every step all through the entire value chain needs to make sure that during this step it is kept safe, and that needs to be inspected and controlled by the government. But that also means that they have to have the systemic approach, the collaborative approach. And towards this, the Kenyan government has developed a new bill for passing called, and it's in the name here, it's the Food and Feed Safety Control Collaboration Bill, a coordination bill. And the part here that's important is coordination.
Okay.
So a lot of people, they're kind of like, oh, it's about controls. The part here is it's about coordinating the controls so that you cover the entire value chain all the way to the consumer. But it's also about consumer awareness, and it's about everybody along the chain taking responsibility. Like Godfrey here, he said before, about every business owner, and that includes the farmer, that includes the industry putting the water into the river, that includes everybody taking responsibility for their part in ensuring that what is put on the table is safe.
So then also that includes what would be a political conversation when it includes pesticides, for example, that come into the country, which are banned in some other jurisdictions, but sometimes find their way to Kenya and are being sold for top dollar, but are being bought anyway, which we cannot see and we do not know, but they're being used here, banned in other jurisdictions. That includes that conversation as well, does it not?
Absolutely.
Something which I'm still not clear about. I buy food, it is safe. I bring it. This handling, what do we mean? Is it the water that is used? Is it the process of cooking? Is it the environment in which this food is now at? Is there something wrong? Do I have too many cockroaches running around? I mean, what is it that then brings about this problem that I had not foreseen? Because I actually did buy safe food.
I love that you asked that question, because the WHO has actually given out a really nice guideline with exactly the things you're mentioning there, how to handle that within your home. And during this World Food Safety Day, we are also doing some posters, we're also doing some sensitization all around for people to be aware of these exact things that you're mentioning there. How do I do that in a safe manner within my own kitchen?
Okay. So this year's celebrations, what's the theme? And are people gathering somewhere to eat? You know, taste. This is unsafe food.
Safe food.
Taste unsafe food.
That's the toilet.
Yes, safe.
Once you're done with that, come now. We show you safe food. Is there anything like that, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think for this question, in honesty, I think my friend Godfrey, he needs to answer that, because he is the brain behind all of this and the main organizer. So let him field this one.
All right, Godfrey, in a minute, tell us what we should expect on Friday.
Yeah, this year's theme, food safety, prepare for the unexpected. And I think Bill had spoken into it, the unexpected. There is so much that we do not know that can happen. COVID-19 showed us that. In Kenya today, we look at the flooding that happened in March and April that created quite a lot of unexpected. And sometimes we just look at it in terms of the flooding. Even in our market, some of our market flooded, and they became a platform for breeding diseases, for food contamination. We go to those markets to get food. With our power outages in our homes, we had food in our fridges. All these things speaks into this theme today. We could be having another COVID, but in Kenyan context in the future. So what this year's theme is all about is bringing all actors, the government, the private sector, the consumer, the advocacy group, to be able to ensure that all of them understand what are their role. The scientists, the academia, we will be there. The scientists will be speaking to us. What have they had? For example, there was a conversation around the link between the high cases of non-communicable diseases and that are rising, and now there's almost some clear data that is coming up that it's linked to the food that we eat. So all that will be there. We have the government. Actually, we had intended that this year we make food safety a national priority. It's becoming very, very important, and that's why we brought and we're having high-level policymakers to be able to speak into this conversation and also build the capacity of county government, because food is produced at the county, not at the national level, to also take up their rightful roles and understand the responsibility of producing safe food that will also spur trade, because food is the most traded commodity in the world.
We've got to end
make
there,
sure
Godfrey.
that our food is able to.
Asante sana. Godfrey Nyang'ori is a program manager with the Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust, and Pilanet Mogo is a sector advisor for food safety at the Royal Danish Embassy. 9 a.m. It's time for the news.
Sixth round amid a push to conclude the process by the end of December. Public participation will be of the stakeholder listening session, which is part of the next negotiating round as talks move to Mombasa for the first time. Trade PS Alfred Obondu and Assistant United States Trade Representatives Constance Hamilton will lead the week-long negotiations. And Belgium national carrier Brussels Airlines is back on the Nairobi-Brussels route after almost a decade, pushing up the number of European flights, renewing their appetite for the Kenyan route. The airline operated the route between 2002 and 2015. Its resumption comes just weeks after Etihad Airways also unveiled their direct link between Kenya and UAE. The inaugural flight from Nairobi to Brussels landed at Jomo Kenyatta Airport on June 3rd, 2024. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aya, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So
See?
Your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Few minutes after 9 o'clock, traffic in the city still continues. I think coming off Vickers Superhighway, not as heavy as it was before. As then we get to the Globe Cinema roundabout, traffic is then heavy as you get to Moore Avenue. Out towards Uhuru Highway and onto Waiyaki Way, still a bit busy. Landis Road, bumper to bumper. That's coming in from the City Stadium roundabout through towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. That still continues for now. Mombasa Road doing very well, not a problem here. Out to Ring at the junction there, coming in from Mbakasi and that North Airport Road area, still pretty busy. So we're coming out of traffic hour soon. It was a heavy, crazy morning, and then it's all tapering off. Let's see what happens in about half an hour or so. We're coming out of traffic hour. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 9. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. So KRA wants to remind you that, there's a tax amnesty program that's ongoing and it expires at the end of this month. So here's how it goes. So you owe KRA up to December 31st, 2022. We are not talking about last year. 2022. You owed KRA some money. Maybe it was self-assessment, or they came and reassessed you and they said, so you ought to have paid KRA X amount for taxes. You didn't. Or they came and found, yes, you owed KRA this much. And because you didn't pay, automatically there was a penalty on it, and automatically there's interest on it. So the figure now completely changes. There's principal, there's penalty, there's interest. And you're even stuck on where to begin. Now, KRA is allowed by law to extend tax amnesty to you, and that extension expires end of this month. So please take advantage of this, because what the amnesty means is they waive the penalty, they waive the interest. You only remain with the principal, and even with that principal, you can discuss on how to repay a payment plan. You can come up with a payment plan, agree with them, this is how much I'm able to pay over this period of time. And they say, all right, you commit to it, Sawa, let's go. How do you get in touch with them? You call them on 0711-099-999. Somebody take a call and walk you through the 6 steps to get yourself having applied and then accepted through the tax amnesty. You can also log on to www.kra.go.ke and go to iTax and then get on the tax and enforcement tab, and then you follow the steps after that, and you should be well on your way. Kabisa. Now, our next guest is going to talk to us about a question that we've been asking ourselves. So we know that there was flood disaster in the country. Yes. In the city county of Nairobi, flood disaster, big time. What does it mean for the future of Kenya's urban planning? Nairobi particularly, how is it? But also he'll tell us how things are looking like so far. She saw Larry Modoa was back in Runda, and Larry was still boating. So many days after the rain had stopped, you thought that this thing has ended. Hey, people are still flooded out. Okay. Patrick Analo is the acting county secretary and is also the chief officer, urban development and planning in Nairobi City County. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante, thank you. Thank you so much.
You know, I was just looking at your titles and I was thinking, so I can understand the Chief Officer for Urban Development and Planning. This is a substantive title that you first had.
Yes.
This is the equivalent of PS.
Yeah, the national level is equivalent of PS.
Sindio?
Yeah. So,
and then County Secretary. This is the equivalent of Head of Public Service.
Exactly.
Boss.
Yes.
Which is up there. So you're like Senior PS.
Exactly.
Senior Principal PS.
Yeah.
Not just senior.
Does the county secretary sit in the county executive committee?
Yeah, he sits in the county executive committee.
So now you are minister and you are PS at the same time, boss.
That's a privilege, but it's a duty. It comes with a lot of
service.
Jamani, waziri na katibu.
Super waziri.
Super waziri.
Baki tu kidogo.
Akuwa gavana.
Msifanye nipoteze kiporo nikitoka hapa.
Hapana, kuna mali unaenda baba. Wewe uko sawa.
Karibu sana Patrick.
Asante.
I have a message for you from Ken Beef. Have you heard of Ken Beef?
Sounds like a meat processing company.
Yes.
Yes.
By Ken Chick.
Yes.
It's by Ken Chick. So you know Ken Chick.
Yes, I do.
Right?
Yes.
So Ken Chick have now started a new line for beef.
Yes.
Ken Beef.
Yes.
And they have various nice products.
Sausage. Minced meat.
Yes.
Burger patties.
Oh, wow, nice.
Shall I continue?
Continue.
I want to say mutura, but I won't. I'll say burvus.
Burvus?
Yes.
Okay.
They are very beautiful.
I'd like to sample that one.
The burvus are beautiful.
I'm telling you, it's a serious something. I myself have sampled, and I must say, they're quite yummy in my tummy, and you should as well. So it's a new offering. Eric just reminded me this morning of those chicken that used to somersault. when you are coming from, don't worry. But here in this case, beef products, and they're absolutely great. Any supermarket you can get them and just sample the taste. The same quality that was put into is now put into the beef, and across board different products at a price that's really good.
The Matura still tastes like the. No, there's not the. You know, there's the original Matura, and then we have this other one, which is a bit spiced up. You open it and you find it's just carrots and tomatoes.
Please don't be alarmed.
We don't know where you go.
Yes, but do not be alarmed.
So I hope this one is closer. Nyama iko inside, because the other one sometimes you really feel cheated.
You're not a vegetarian.
Have you heard of a certain delicacy called a samosa?
Yes.
And there are certain places in this country when you ask for a vegetable samosa, if you were to investigate what's inside, you find a leaf of sukuma wiki.
So I hope that's not what I'm going to
call a samosa.
Kitu kona minji ndani.
Yes.
That's now sambusa.
In Eric's neck of the wood.
Those are Kenyans for you. The Buddha.
Yes.
Have you got a minji?
Minji.
So cheated. This should be for free. Sell the other one. This one.
So I hope that is not the Mutura I'm looking for.
Ni nyama.
Meat.
Nyama. City. Give Bona hizo zote. Acting CS and then CEO.
I've just told you, Super Waziri.
Give Super Waziri the day's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of the Gambia. The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty.
The one who is too talkative leaves the mouth empty.
Yes.
What's your interpretation of it, Anna?
Yeah, I think it's a very important saying, African saying, which I think is emphasizing on the need to listen more and speak less, and before you speak, you have to engage your mind. Yes.
Think before you.
Yes.
Higher. A lot's happening in this country. Okay? And in Nairobi in particular, this rain has shown us things. Kumbe, this is how Nairobi is. It just did Nairobi like this, and we saw the underbelly of Nairobi. Okay? You've been here before, and you've even told us, let's look back at Nairobi planning. Nairobi planning, Muzungus came here, they decided this small thing is going to be a town. It became a city. They planned for a city. They did their plans. And since then, we Africans came and said, okay, plan.
For what?
Okay, we did a small thing called a plan. And then the rest of the time, you plan what, Buana? You let things grow, Buana. And so we don't have a plan. And now here we are.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Lafiff. Before I start, let me send out my condolences following the demise of our friend, the artist Njambi Koikai, whom I've known for many years. We were at some point staying together in Dagoretti. May her soul rest in eternal peace.
What does staying together mean?
Please clarify.
Yes?
What does staying together mean?
Well, we are in the same neighborhood. Yeah, the same neighborhood, Lafiff. We were neighbors. Okay. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Lafiff, for this chance again to appear on this show to discuss the issues of disaster within this great city of Nairobi and the way forward. Indeed, I find myself very delighted to come and discuss that topic here. But I think as I set off, I would like to indicate that as I mentioned last time, cities face a number of disasters and hazards all over the world. One of them is flooding. In other places, they experience earthquakes. In other places, they have cyclones. But I think also it's good to also remember that for Nairobi, just a couple of years ago, we went through a very harrowing experience of COVID. and I think which was affecting the entire world. So as I respond to what we are doing moving forward as a city, I would like to put this in both local and global context. Last time I mentioned briefly that moving forward, we as a city are focusing on what we call urban resilience-based management, which focuses on helping build the capacity of local authorities to respond to uncertainties and calamities and hazards and risks when they occur. And in this case, we had floods in the city of Nairobi. But just previously, I think towards the last quarter of last year, remember we had El Nino rains. And I think because of what we had done at that time with our Green Army team, the impact was not as had been anticipated. But through the act of God, I think this year, early this year, the heavy rains came. And so the city of Nairobi is part of a global network of 100 cities who are beneficiaries of an urban resilience program by the Rockefeller Foundation, which started in 2013. And basically this program helps to build the capacity of the cities to respond to physical, social, and economic challenges, which are beyond what ordinarily cities deal with. So for city of Nairobi, we saw that the worst hit areas are the settlements along the riparian wayleaves, the riparian corridor of the 5 main rivers of our city. And one of the things we have embarked on between the county government and national government is to reclaim the riparian corridor. And most of the settlements on this corridor are informal. So I'm sure the next question is, where do you take these people? The long-term program, which I think also I mentioned here briefly, is the urban renewal program. People stay in the informal settlements and slums, not because that's their wish. People stay in informal settlements and slums in urban areas because they cannot meet the cost of housing in the market in the urban areas. So the county government of Nairobi has rolled out an urban renewal program that is targeting initially 5 estates which were built during the colonial days. Mostly they're in the eastlands part of city. We have Bahati, we have Kariobangi, we have Kaloleni, and then on the western side of the city we have Woodley estate, which is more or less a middle-income estate. The intention here is to provide affordable housing. Underline the word affordable. Housing that majority of the urban poor can access decent housing, so that we reduce the attraction of people going to live in settlements that expose them to risks, especially flooding. The other issue is issues of concerning access to safe drinking water. Lafiff, I think the description of challenges that urban areas face, like the city of Nairobi, is manifested in housing. Poor housing summarizes the entire problem of urban challenges, and one of the issues around housing is access to clean and safe drinking water for families, for homes, but also for industrial use, for industrial and commercial use. There's a robust program by the county government of Nairobi. His Excellency Governor Sakaja, together with His Excellency the President, have secured funding to expand the water supply to the city of Nairobi up to a tune of 2 times what we are receiving. Of course, the question is, when are we likely to have a feel of that? By end of next year, we'll be having a significant increase in water supply within the city. Another important project, Lafiff, which we are also working on and also impacted greatly on flooding, or rather contributed to flooding, is solid waste management. solid waste management has remained a very big challenge in our city. We have one dumping site, that is Dandora landfill, which was established again at the colonial period when the city was being founded, and then that dump site has filled up. It has exhausted its limit. There's a project that is coming up very soon. We are at advanced stage now. Negotiation is going on, is being led by the governor and China Electric company. The plant is going to seek to set up a waste to energy program, which will now we are not going to be dumping waste at Dandora dump site anymore, but we will be transforming that waste into energy, which can then be used to power other energy needs of the city. Alongside that is the issue of collection. How do we sustainably collect waste from the 17 sub-counties we have? I remember last time I mentioned briefly, almost 30% of our waste is collected by private waste collectors. But there's a program again in place in our next financial budget, where we are rolling up a program to ensure that we fully, almost 100% collect garbage within the city in order to ensure that we have adequate supply to the plant that is being set up in Dandora. So I think
all those sound programmatic, right?
Yes.
So you're doing a program on urban renewal. You're doing a program on solid waste management. You're doing a program where you're working on securing water sources for the supply of water to Nairobi. But the plan for Nairobi, right? The physical plan that says this is how Nairobi is, this is where the facilities, amenities shall be. How does the plan for Nairobi, for example, there is a railway development railway city coming up here. There are other cities surrounding Nairobi that are coming up, private cities. How do all these things fit into the provision of social amenities, transporting people, access to markets, access to shopping facilities, access to schools, access to hospitals, access, just having sewer access, drainage, proper stormwater drainage and harvesting. What's that thing on the table?
That's what you call a spatial plan.
Where is it, the spatial plan?
I mentioned to you last time that we have a Nairobi City County Integrated Urban Development Master Plan, which is the acronym is New Plan, NIUPLAN. The plan was completed in the year 2014, and one of the proposals of the plan was to do further, area-specific detailed plans, and also what it called the pilot, or rather flagship areas. One of those areas is in public transport, which I think we've made significant progress in doing the detailed plan on public transport for bus rapid transit on Ngong Road, on Thika Road and Wayakiwe. The next phase that is to follow is the implementation. The second plans that require to be done are the detailed area plans, about 5 plans. I mentioned that we made an attempt to prepare this when NMS was responsible for the planning function. The process went up to procurement but collapsed because of lack of budget. The current administration has prioritized to do those plans in the upcoming budget, following this year's budget policy presentation. Now,
so it's procurement for what? For drawing up the plan?
Yeah, for drawing up the plan. The plan is the preparation of the plan has to be participatory. So you have to hire sections of the process have to be handled by a private consultant,
right?
And there are bits which have to be handled by the county itself.
How long should that process take?
Ordinarily, a plan.
Assuming that you have contracted
Yeah, ordinarily a plan of that magnitude, because we had done the entire tender documents. In 9 months, you have a detailed area plan for a specific district.
So by July 2025, we should be talking about rolling out this detailed area plan.
Once we have the budget, we should be rolling out the plan. But the other plan, which is complete, Lafiff, is the Eastlands Urban Renewal Plan. The Eastlands Urban Renewal Plan, we worked on it with support from World Bank through the national government, the Ministry of Metropolitan, the State Department for Metropolitan Development. The plan was completed, and it focuses on renewal with the key element being housing. That's the plan that is guiding the housing program that you see national government and county government implementing in the Eastlands part of the city. The second plan that is completed and approved by the county assembly is the railway city plan. You know, the extension of the central business district to cover the area that belonged to Kenya Railways Corporation, which was partly given to the pension scheme. That plan we prepared is complete, is gazetted, is now being implemented. The third plan, Lafiff, again, and you can check on the website, you see, is the plan that gave rise to the ICDL, Inland Container Depot Corridor. These are growth area for the Nairobi industrial element. That's the one that led to the establishment of the Inland Container Depot. And there are bits which are still to be implemented, including the commuter rail, expansion of the commuter rail to go into that section of the city, and also a right layer from Central Business District into JKIA. The element that I think we have not covered so much, and I saw last time you raised it, but it's being worked on again by relevant sectors, is infrastructure expansion. There has been a lot of interest on sewer and water reticulation and power. You are aware that sewer management and water reticulation is ceded to Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, which is a corporation that belongs to Nairobi City, and that is being handled jointly with Earthy Water Services, which is a state parastatal in the ministry. Why are those two handling? It's because issues of water and sewer are transboundary. They go beyond the boundaries of Nairobi City. We have sections of Kiambu County who consume co-joined, like Ruiru Town, Thika Town, Juja. The water they use is partly on the same line with the water that comes to the city of Nairobi. So for such elements of sewer expansion and water reticulation, it's mostly managed by national government and Nairobi Water.
Can I ask, I know you want to go to break, but I'm looking at all the plans and I think they're great. In terms of the implementation, if they're going to actually follow the letter of the plan, I think that's something that we wait to see. But in terms of what the county looks like, if you took an aerial view of what the county looks like today, and upon its present infrastructure, the things that are being done, and when I talk about the infrastructure, I'm talking about water sanitation, I'm talking about the sewage system and all of this, that we continually see the further development upon plans that are decades old, and I'm concerned about what is going to happen. I mean, we had engineers here who told us about the fact that when we now see natural phenomena like flooding, it tells a very, very clear story of what has to be done in the county, especially where it's urbanized, in terms of either stopping further development and opening up this infrastructure. But the question is, before we go beyond what is currently there in terms of development, what is present needs a lot of work and attention. What's being done?
Yeah. Nairobi is experiencing a very huge urbanization pressure. The number of people that we have to house in this city is tremendously increasing every day, even after setting up county governments, and it was hoped that the establishment of 47 county governments will reduce pressure of the city, the migration, rural to urban migration. And of course that increased population, exerts a lot of pressure on the current infrastructure that we have. Most which was established, the foundational structure was established before independence, and just the period after independence, and I think up to around 80s. That has kept us going up to date.
We're not going. We're not going. They're still going.
So I agree. Indeed, our infrastructure is stressed. It cannot meet the current size of population that we have, and that's why I'm here to talk about the plans that we have. Some are currently being implemented. I will, for example, mention to you that Nairobi Water is currently working on the line that serves Kileleshwa and is extending it all the way to include the slum settlement, or rather the informal settlement that underlies Kileleshwa, that is Kawangware. The line in the central business district is also being extended and expanded. I've talked about water, which we have secured funding for increased Northern Collector Tunnel 2 and Ngedu Dam expansion, which by next year we should significantly reduce rationing in the city. Let me say, and I think I
you just got the funding, boss. Where next year there will be more water.
Well, these are civil works, Lafiff, which have to be worked on. I mentioned that the trunk infrastructure that we have in the city, most of it was established in the colonial period. There was no anticipation that from a population of 200,000 people that will have this expansive growth. Within 50 years, you have now 5 million, 6 million people to take care of it. But I should also mention that we must have incremental and gradual, continuous investment in infrastructure expansion for a primate city like Nairobi. If you ask me from where I sit, the successive governments after the 1963 really did not do what you would say that needed to have been done to put us up to where we are. I have a 1976 Nairobi growth strategy, which I was going through yesterday as I was preparing to come to this meeting. If that 1976 Nairobi metropolitan area growth strategy had been implemented, Latif, we would not be here discussing strained sewer lines, constrained water supply within the city. But however, now that we are here today as the current generation, the current leadership of the city, the question is, what are we doing to address those challenges? And I'm saying there are plans that we are currently, they have been designed, there are those we are implementing, and there are those we need to develop. But moving forward, Latif, if you ask me, from where I sit and my sister, we must address the issue of access to housing in our city. If we continue having more people having to live in squalor conditions in all those informal settlements, I don't think we'll be fixing the problem that we face as a city.
So let's take a break. When we come back, you'll tell us how new plan looks at Nairobi. How many years is it? How many years ahead
it's taking us up to 2032.
It's just up to next week. So do we have a plan that can take us up to 2050, 2040, 2050?
Plans, we have already kicked off the preparation of Nairobi 2050.
Sawa.
Yes.
Because that's the time, that's what we keep hearing from this administration. If you look at Nairobi in the next 15 years, the population of Nairobi will be unbelievable.
Yes.
So how are we now for that, and how are we working towards that? You'll tell us that.
I'll address that,
It's 24 minutes to 10. Our guest this morning is the County Secretary for the Acting County Secretary for Nairobi and the Chief Officer for Urban Development and Planning, Patrick Kanalo. We are talking about looking at the future, the lessons that we've learned from what we are seeing in Nairobi now, and how are we working towards making sure that we finish and deal with those issues now and make sure that generations of Nairobi in the next 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years will not be facing what we are dealing with today.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, wow! Yes, yes, yes. Umeona hiyo bao? Bao gani? Kwani wewe unasherekea nini? Bro, KRA ni kama umenipea discount. Discount? Wewe acha zako. Cheki, nilikuwa na deni ya 148,396 shillings na KRA wameniambia nilipe 88,396 shillings bila penalties na interest. Na isitoshe, wamenikubalia nilipe polepole, bora tu nimalize deni by 30th June 2024. We acha zako. Hebu nione. Ndio hii.
The Kenya Revenue Authority is forgiving all penalties and interest on outstanding tax debt for periods up to December 31st, 2022. Pay off your tax liability in easy installments by 30th June 2024 and watch your penalties and interest vanish from your profile. Visit the KRA website on guidelines on how to apply and apply now via iTax. Terms and conditions apply. Kenya Revenue Authority. Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee. Planning an outdoor event and in need of a remarkable venue? Your search ends here. Explore the peaceful ambience of the Green Park Garden located at the Standard Group Center on Mombasa Road. Whether it's a corporate affair, a joyous birthday celebration, a dreamy wedding, or any special event, our serene ambience sets the perfect stage. Marvel at the diverse array of plants, each with its unique texture, color, and fragrance, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Don't miss out on this extraordinary opportunity. To reserve your spot in our green sanctuary, contact Greg at 0714-673547. Embrace nature's touch.
All right, we're coming to the end of traffic hour this morning. There's just a little bit left on the Thika Superhighway as you get towards the Pangani Underpass. Landis Road still continues to be a bit messy, and coming off of Ngong Road, heading out towards the City Mortuary roundabout. I think we're going to see the last of it in a few minutes or so. Eastern Bypass looks good now, and as you're coming off of Kiambu Road, a smidgen of it left as you get towards Muthaiga Square. Apart from that, I think we're good. Through the morning, let's talk SpiceFM, KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So there is a special plan for Nairobi, the Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Plan, new plan, which has, now it's a big one. And it has now several elements that needed to come in.
Mm.
And they said some of them have been approved and should be going into implementation. Eastland's Urban Renewal Plan, the Railway City Plan, the ICDL Industrial Area Plan, the Bus Rapid Transport Plan. What we expect to start getting into is developing the detailed area plans for the various areas of Nairobi. And as we move forward, then we are addressing those things. But as we took the break, you said, but we must think about the people who live in Nairobi and the condition that they live in Nairobi, right?
Yes.
An urban squalor is not just the type of house that they live in. It is everything in that neighborhood.
Yes.
It is whether they have access to those basic services like waste management, whether they can get access to water in their taps, whether they can get access to roads and properly paved roads, whether they can get access to schools and all those things. So what's the plan here? Even as we address those, because what I hear is, like you told us, there is the urban renewal program for the 5 estates, and you said Bahati, Kariobangi, Kaloleni, Woodley. What's the 5th?
Yeah, the 5th they have, I think there's a program on Jogo Road. I'll get you the details here.
So those ones, there is urban renewal, and you're having the affordable housing project coming up. Are they addressing all these issues of access to water, to sewer, to...
Yeah, so urban renewal as a terminology in urban planning addresses, it is predicated on the understanding that there is amenities or infrastructure that was put in place to serve a certain purpose. And it has exhausted, or rather, attained its limit. And in this case, we are talking about those estates that I've mentioned, Lafiff. So the urban renewal program is, of course, at the center of it is housing. But you look at housing as both as a commodity and a service. So the program, the plan has addressed the issues of sewer expansion for those particular area, employment centers for the youth, including establishment of markets, and related to that, this administration of Governor Sakaja has a target of doing 20 markets within 5 years. Already we have 3 already on course. We've rolled out Mutuini. We're about to roll out South Bay Market and Karen. The urban renewal plan also looks at social amenities, schools, health centers, waste management, police stations. So that all of that has been covered within the Eastlands Urban Renewal Program.
How long is the new lease of life? Because we're talking about now these estates are old, and that's why we are renewing them, right?
Yes.
So they were not done anything for decades.
Yes.
The new one, how many years are you giving them?
Well,
so when you say that you're putting up a market, this market is to serve what size of population?
Yes.
By the time this estate is now fully matured?
Yes, I mentioned earlier that we've kicked off the process of preparing the Nairobi 2050. So I would want to say that the estates that we are setting up in this urban renewal program should take us up to beyond 2050.
So the market, for example, the Mutuine market, should be able to serve a certain population by the year 2050.
Yes,
maybe it should be able to serve a population of about 1 million people.
1 million people
around Mutuine.
Yes, and that is based on the population projection. But remember, if we hit that limit. Currently, the market is ground plus one. Sprawling. We've tried to encourage.
What size of land?
I think it's about that public land could be about 3 acres. I do not have the details, but it's quite expansive. The residents of that area, told us they would like a market that is at ground level, so that you do not have to really, walk so much going up. There are some markets which you have to do multi-story.
Yeah.
And our plan is that once we hit that population, then you can introduce the first level. Yeah.
Okay. It seems that even with the plan, that there's still a lot of pressure on Nairobi in this central area where there's just so much going on at the same time, and we still keep adding on it. So is there a conversation, and I think that there must be, when we talk about dormitory areas of Nairobi, I mean there's the Nairobi metropolitan area, which we know includes these areas that we spoke about, Ruiru on this side, coming to this other side of Syokimau, and then this other side of Kiseri, Athi River, right? But then what's the idea in terms of expansion? Because the truth of the matter, whether we're engineers or not, Nairobi cannot take this pressure that is currently being exerted on it for the developments that we see in, you mentioned South B, South C. Kilimani keeps coming up. We're looking at Embakasi. That continues to be an issue. There's no water below ground level in Isli, for example. How many boreholes have been sunk in Isli? Right?
Yeah.
So those are the issues that we're talking about. And where is the idea to say, let's start to take this concentration and move it out of where there's already so much pressure? Is there a conversation around that? Because usually what the idea will be is that it's too expensive, we can't start. But yes, you can. There are nations that have done that and said, look, it's a capital city, so the administration is there, and because of that, people are going to want to be close to centrality. Where is the conversation today? It cannot get any bigger than it is.
Yes.
What you have is what you have.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you brought up that conversation, and you've I think since we left each other last time, looks like you've studied this matter more deeply, and I'm seeing now you're opening up to the conversation I tried to bring forth last time. Well, one of the things I would wish you to appreciate globally, cities are really trying to run away from urban sprawl. Urban sprawl basically means having one continuous city from Nairobi all the way to let's say to Isinya, or from Nairobi all the way to Thika and beyond. Well, eventually, as you're saying, we will get there. But as we get there, we must be able to afford. It is quite expensive to manage such an sprawling city, which we others call metropolitan. But still, we have predicted that will come to
eventually will happen.
Yeah, will happen.
It's already happening.
Yeah, and that's why we have. So that is what we call inter-county planning, because it involves several counties: Nairobi, Kiambu, Nairobi, Machakos, Nairobi, Kajiado. There's a program and a process which is being coordinated by the county, the national government, the Ministry of Urban Development and Lands. What are we addressing to do that? If we can have proper public transport, Lafiff, and mainly mass rapid transit, which can either be a commuter rail or a bus rapid transit, it's possible to achieve what my sister is saying, that you can stay in Isinya and get onto the train, and within 1.5 hours, you are in Nairobi. But as of now,
realistically, Patrick, if you just look at it as of now,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Nairobi, and if you look at the expanse of Nairobi, well, you've said it. Just a few kilometers out of Nairobi, you're in Machakos, right? A few kilometers out of Nairobi, you're in Kajiado. You're in Kiambu. You're in Murang'a. Well, you don't touch Nairobi into Murang'a, but close by, right?
You do. Once you're in Thika, Murang'a just next door.
Yeah, but Thika, you're already in Kiambu. So, but you're so close to these areas. Even if you do the bus rapid transport from Nairobi, just past Karen, and you're in Kajiado. Why can't we just already start thinking about the Nairobi metropolitan area, which has already been established, and saying this is the city?
And that's what I'm telling you. For example, we
tell Kiambu, listen, Kiambu up to here, this has come into Nairobi.
So one of the programs that we have already rolled out, and when I say we, this is both the national government and the 3 county governments. We have the Nairobi Metropolitan Transport Authority, which is in acronym is called NAMATA.
Yes.
On NAMATA, the head of NAMATA, or rather the person, the steering committee chair, is the minister in charge of transport, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, is assisted by His Excellency Governor Sakaja, and then we have the governors from these other 3 counties sitting on NAMATA. NAMATA is looking at issues of transport within these 3 metropolitan cities. I've also mentioned to you, we have the Athi Water Services Company, which is also looking at issues of water within the 3 metropolitan areas. Lafiff, the way to really handle a metropolitan city is not really to encourage private transport. It is not sustainable. Even from air quality point of view, the cost of living, we want to really talk about mass public transport, because if the metropolitan area of Nairobi, which covers those 3 counties, has an urban population of about 17 million people. So these 17 million people, the most feasible and reasonable and economically and environmentally acceptable way is to move this labor force using public transport. And that's why the flagship program for the metropolitan growth area is a transport authority. Now, the other thing is housing, which my sister has also raised. Well, again, you must have a choice whether you want to stay in Isinya, and this is benchmarkable on developed cities. For example, Tokyo Metropolitan, it has a population of about 18 million. There are people who would prefer to stay at the center, my sister. So that's why I'm talking about affordable housing and urban renewal. And then we will have people who are just about to exit active urban service, and they would like to stay on the outer the outer areas of the metropolitan area, and you provide for them the choice to travel. So today I've noticed cities is so is so quiet today. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, I mean, if you have to give choices between staying at the city center and on the periphery, in Juja, in Thika, or in Isinya, looking at cities, experience of having stayed in the city, he's the person you will give the choice to, to stay 30 kilometers away. But for a young guy who is at Daystar University, Nairobi University,
what's the vibrancy?
Yeah, the guy who is doing startups, he has to work up to around midnight. Yeah. You give him the choice to stay in the Eastlands part of the city.
But Ndugu, there's something that I've been waiting for you to mention. That's why I've been quiet.
Yes.
Ensuring that you seriously talk about and then create barrows. You see, if the concept, you are a planner, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's why I brought it up. If you take the concept to its logical conclusion, many of the problems that we're talking about will not just dissipate, they'll become manageable. Because those units will be able to take care of many of the things that we keep talking about. But with the centrality of what we have right now, they become near impossible.
Yeah, but City, we are the first county to talk about barrows.
No, I've said, let's forget talking. We've talked. That's why I said
we're implementing barrows.
Where?
We're implementing barrows in the city of Nairobi.
Where?
We are implementing 6 barrows in the city of Nairobi City. Wait a minute. So, we've already completed the process of public participation, formation, defining of boundaries. We've groundbroken the first borough headquarter.
Where?
On Thika Road, Kahawa, Clay City. The construction is underway. The second one is
coming. And that borough, what will it be called?
That's this borough along the Kasarani Mwiki borough.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Yes.
Okay, and you've broken ground for?
You must create the facilities.
I understand all that.
Yes, yeah. And there's the concept, the idea behind a borough and the operations.
Yes.
You must establish the systems and the mechanisms and the processes to manage a borough.
Yes.
The concept behind a borough, for example, city, just quickly. Let me talk about water reticulation. The guy in Westlands, as His Excellency the Governor has always given the example, or the guy in Mwiki, has no business thinking about water reticulation in South Sea. He should wake up thinking about water reticulation in Westlands, in Runda, in Muthaiga, in Gigiri. And that's the concept you're trying to implement. And we've researched on this, we've tested it, we've piloted.
You shouldn't be trying to implement it. You're a planner, you know exactly what needs to be done. I want to hear you saying, we are in the process of enacting the following so that we realize this. We shouldn't be trying.
Well, City, I think the word trying is to demonstrate that we are progressive people. We are not, this is not cast in stone, because, being a program that is kicking off, this is the first phase. Of course, there will be continuous feedback and input from city residents, people like you. So I will not allow you to pour cold water on a program
I'm adding heat
on
to
a
it.
program that city as an urban planner I'm so passionate about. That actually there are even other counties and countries that have started coming to benchmark on us on how to set up a borough system of management city.
To benchmark on something that hasn't started?
And I hope you are not taking offense on the borough management when I suggested that we can have senior citizens of the city who, if want to live in Isinya or Juja or Thika, this city, we believe in the principle of inclusivity. If you want to stay in our urban renewal housing program in the Eastlands part of the city, you're welcome, city. But what you are saying, I was just trying to explain what my sister said, that Nairobi cannot continue to take on the additional pressure of the population that is coming in the city. And I said, yes, we are aware of that as planners, and we have a plan in place. They are the pilot program, is the transport Namata program. Yes.
You are passionate about the borough program, as am I.
Yes.
Because I understand the concept and I know what it can do.
Yes.
Among the things that I know it can achieve, this problem we keep having about revenue.
Yes.
The moment you divvy up this particular city and you have ensured that you have actually given those very units okay, the powers that it has, many of the issues, and I'm repeating it again, including revenue collection, will not be what it is right now. But this monolith that we have, this is something you know far better than I can ever know.
And I can tell you already, we have surpassed the revenue targets ever raised since the advent of Nairobi County government. And that has been program number 1 of implementing the barrow system. So we are not trying. We actually doing it. I'm just being humble. I don't want to blow a trumpet that this thing is working.
So the first barrow is your Okoh.
Yes,
right?
That's the first construction.
Okay, it's a construction.
Yes.
So you're constructing the office?
You're constructing the establishment of the offices, the facilities. There's going to be a lot of tech. This barrow is going to be driven by smart cities technologies.
So what's going to be in that facility?
Of course, we are going to have, we have devolved fire services, emergency services.
Okay.
We are going to set up the emergency services. We are going to have a customer care center at that particular barrow. You're going to have a social hall. You're going to have a setup of all the necessary, specialists within the city, like engineers, the urban planners, the revenue guys.
So you go and get approvals there, you pay.
Yes, you'll not have to come all the way from Saika or Obama or Karinde from the other side of the city to come to City Hall. And City, the example you have given is so classical, and I really like it. Revenue collection.
Yes.
And national government is really hammering on counties, the need of counties to grow on-source revenue. Lafiff.
So who's going to be in that facility? Who's going to be the boss?
We are going to hire, His Excellency, Governor is going to hire a barrow manager who is going to be on contract.
Can the barrow manager be elected by the people?
No.
Why not?
This is an employee. He's supposed to be employed to deliver services. To manage the barrow. And he's on contract. Remember the program we tried in our level 4 hospitals, and it's working. There's and I've seen the minister, the national government minister, through that debate that civil servants should be put on contract. So we put our CEOs of level 4 hospitals on contract. That is Mama Lucy, Mbagathi, Mutuini, and Pumwani. And I'm telling you, City, it has really changed the fortunes.
So is the revenue collected in a barrow?
Yes.
Part of it ring-fenced towards reinvestment in the barrow?
Good discussion. So remember, City within. Yeah. So one of the other foundations of a barrow management system is physical semi-autonomy.
Yes.
Yeah. Physical, not physical planning. Physical financial, autonomy. So through a public participation, through the county integrated development plan, resources that have been generated within a local barrow, that barrow will get a priority to reinvest those resources in key services within that particular barrow. But we're also going to encourage competition, healthy competition between barrows, like areas of revenue collection, service delivery, urban greening, taking care of the needy, like the destitutes, the poor within society, and I think is a better way rather than really this central way of managing devolved units.
Waziri, we've got to end it here. We'd like to invite you so we can be discussing one thing at a time.
Yes.
In all these plans.
I really want to.
For example, if we talk about the transport, you come when we're discussing transport.
Yes.
Or housing, and we're discussing housing.
Yes.
Or services, and we're discussing.
I really want to come back, but even as I conclude, in all this, Lafiff, let me tell you, and City, we must
do.
Let me tell you, and this is drawn from experience. Yes, we are also trying to look at if the next hazard happens, which we do not really know what it is, how well are cities prepared to respond to such hazards? And the response is in how you organize your sectors, water, health, social amenities, transport, and all that.
Right now, we're not.
I would say that we out of 10, we could say we did 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asante. Patrick Analo is the acting county secretary and is the chief officer for urban planning. No, it's called what?
Urban Development and Planning.
Urban Development and Planning.
Yeah.
Asante for joining us.
Thank you so
Tomorrow
much.
is Thursday. It's Justice Thursday. We'll be here, God willing. Have a lovely one. It's a minute past.